Rest to Prabhupada. Uh, we
Hare Krishna.
welcome Hare
Thank
Krishna
you.
Maharaj. We welcome His Holiness Hridayananda Goswami Maharaj with us. So very kindly has graced us with his presence. We were fortunate last year to have his association during the Bhakti Vaibhava program. So yeah, as most of you might not be like it's the first time like meeting Maharaj. Um, So Maharaj is like I know Maharaj does not like a long introduction. I am aware of that. I've been like forewarned by Prabhupada Priya Mataji not to waste like quote unquote waste time by waste Maharaj's time by giving him a long introduction. I would only all I would say that Maharaj's contribution to ISKCON is like um, is priceless, and that would be an understatement. Um, I would actually hand over Maharaj to you without further ado. Because the only thing I would just want to add here, Maharaj, that uh, the students here in Pakistan are not uh, um, they're not like familiar, or they're not used to or habituated to deal with like such senior and advanced devotees. So I'm telling you, I mean, this is what goes on inside. This is what
No,
goes
that's
on
all
inside.
right. I think of myself as sort of a normal person, and which means, a lot of other people are abnormal. But actually, I maybe I'll just say a few words about myself. Thank you all for coming. Um, I joined the Hare Krishna movement in 1969. Um, I was a student at Berkeley, University of California in Berkeley. And when I went home for the summer in 1969, I began visiting the temple in Los Angeles. It was not the temple they have now, but it was just a rented church. And I didn't know it at the time, but Prabhupada was actually living in my neighborhood uh, because the temple they had then, there was no facility for Prabhupada, so they rented a house for Prabhupada in Beverly Hills, and that's where my family was. So then I joined the movement in Berkeley, and the first letter I wrote to Prabhupada, actually I'd seen Prabhupada in at the university. Prabhupada was traveling around America speaking in different universities. So actually, a very good friend of mine also saw Prabhupada in that same tour, but in the other side of the country, and that was Giriraj Swami. Giriraj Swami saw Prabhupada in Brandeis University outside of Boston. So anyway, the first instruction, personal instruction I received from Prabhupada came when I wrote him a letter because I was a student at the university and I was also living in the temple. And so I was wondering, should I stay in the university, which is, Maya, or should I drop out? So I wrote a letter to Prabhupada. And he said, you should stay in the university. He said, because you have to be well educated in order to present Krishna consciousness to educated people. So that first instruction really became the mission of my life. And that's what I've tried to do. So anyway, I never tire of talking about myself. Just kidding.
No
So
more required,
So
sir.
for 2 years, I took sannyas at the age of 23. So that was kind of exciting to be an ISKCON sannyasi several years before I had a fully developed prefrontal cortex. So that, that we were, we were very young, enthusiastic, and I traveled and lectured in universities. And in 1974, Prabhupada called me to his room in Mayapur at actually the first annual Mayapur festival for Gaur Purnima, and he asked me to be GBC of Latin America because at that time I was traveling around speaking in universities, and Prabhupada liked that program very much. So he said about me, he said he can convince them. So he sent me to Latin America, and it went very, very well. We opened up dozens of centers and sold millions of Prabhupada's books. And during that time, I became chairman of the GBC for a year and survived that. And then Prabhupada placed me as a BBT trustee, and we printed and distributed millions of Prabhupada's books in Spanish and Portuguese. And then in 1978, just after Prabhupada gave up his manifested pastimes, I became one of the first ISKCON gurus after Prabhupada, and that was quite an experience. Anyway, I won't go into that. Uh, that was an amazing experience, and then at a certain point, Prabhupada had asked me to finish my education, and I'd never done that because at the time I was just a young boy, young guy, and I couldn't balance those two things, being in the university and um, and being a member of the Hare Krishna cult of Chaitanya, joking as Prabhupada used to say. So I knew that the order of the spiritual master, sooner or later, we have to follow the order of the spiritual master. And so, and I was actually waiting for Krishna to give me the green light. So then in 1991, which is 34 years ago, approximately, Krishna did tell me now's the time. So I went back to UCLA because I'm from Los Angeles. I was born in California. And so I finished my bachelor degree at UCLA in world religions, and then I was invited actually by Harvard University to go there because they'd seen all my because I finished the Bhagavatam for Prabhupada. It was done by a team, but actually for almost all the verses and purports, I did it. So, so then I went to Harvard and I was able to skip the master's degree because they thought, well, he already knows this stuff. So, and then by Prabhupada's mercy, it was just Prabhupada's mercy, I was able to get the fastest PhD in the history of that Harvard department. And so, and then I've taught in some universities, Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley and University of Florida. And now we'll get to the point, and then I'll say one more thing, and then I will become tired of talking about myself. So, as we know, as we know, Prabhupada came in 1966 on the Jaladuta. He came to New York. And from the historical point of view, Prabhupada didn't create the wave of interest in Indian spirituality. He sort of rode the wave. And there were many gurus that were very popular, but the difference was Prabhupada was the real thing. I mean, Prabhupada, if you compare Prabhupada to all these other gurus who had big followings, actually as big as Prabhupada, but first of all, Prabhupada was a pure soul. Prabhupada actually knew what he was talking about, and he was actually a bona fide pure devotee, whereas they were just usually giving some impersonal nonsense, making some money, and then ending up in illicit relationships. So Prabhupada, on a spiritual level, was far, far, far beyond these people. But even on a material level, he was just much smarter. He knew how to manage. He wasn't just sort of a spaced out sadhu. Prabhupada raised a family, he had a business, and so he was really intelligent. He knew how to organize an institution. And so in those days, ISKCON grew exponentially. And that was very interesting, just to mention another point. I hope you can, is it okay if I explain these things? Krishna Priya?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay,
Yes,
little
Maharaj.
ISKCON history. So we have a lot of evidence. We have a lot of evidence, actually, that ISKCON, as it manifested, was for Prabhupada Plan B, not Plan A. Because if you look at all the letters that Prabhupada wrote in India before he came to the West, and the letters he wrote when he came to the West, and many things that he said after he started ISKCON, Prabhupada's basic, or let's say his original strategy to spread Krishna consciousness in the West, with the idea the world would follow, the original strategy was Jajarachariti Shestas. That because America's leading country and also Europe, so if we establish Krishna consciousness very powerfully there, the world will accept it. Just like the world accepted Elvis Presley, I guess. Anyway, but that was the idea that people are following the West. And so Prabhupada wrote letters to leading citizens, to cultural and social leaders. He wrote letters to great charitable institutions like the Carnegie Foundation or the Ford Foundation. And it's like that old Beatles song, No Reply. There was just people didn't really respond. And there are various socio-historical reasons. Why didn't people respond? That's not very difficult, I think, to figure out, but that was the case. People didn't respond. And then young people at that time started joining. And so Prabhupada's response, which he explained, Prabhupada was really what we would call in America a straight shooter. I mean, Prabhupada really would tell it like it is. I mean, it's not only the Bhagavad Gita is Jatarup, but Prabhupada's own speaking was Jatarup. It was very, he would make the point. And so Prabhupada said things which were actually very radical, but no one noticed at the time how radical it was. Like, for example, we have the mass, but we need the class. Prabhupada was very sociological in his analysis. I mean, he wasn't a sentimental, the world is one. I mean, that's nice, but in terms of strategic planning, he was very no nonsense, very realistic, and he saw there are different classes of people. I mean, Krishna in the Gita, Chaturvarnya Maya Srishtam, that Krishna has created the Varna system, and Shudras and Brahmins, in one sense, are the same. They're spirit soul. That's Brahma Darshan or Tattva Darshan, that everyone is an eternal soul. But on a human level, Shudras and Brahmins are a little different. So Prabhupada was very anxious. Prabhupada always said that society is headless and we have to put a head on society. So if you say, what does it mean to put a head on the society? I mean, Prabhupada meant a Brahmin class. We need to recreate or reconstitute, reestablish a real Gaudiya Vaishnav Brahmin class to teach the world. Um, but that's a spiritual idea, but it's also a sociological idea. And so, from the point of view of, let's say, socio-historical analysis, how do you actually do that? Many devotees in the world think you just go out on the street, kind of wearing, well, funny clothes. You go out on the street and you dress in a certain way and you dance and play drums and then the world will surrender. That's not really happening. I mean, certainly in the Western world, that's not really happening. And Prabhupada was very sensitive to these things. He was very so anyway, I mean, there's so much that could be said about what is real Vaishnav culture. And maybe I'll just say one thing and then get to the main point. And eventually, Om Purnamadak Purnamadam, Idam, right? Purnat Purnam. That's the thing. I remember when that book first came out, the Isopanisad. It was the first ISKCON book ever published that had Sanskrit diacritic marks. And when it came out, I was a brahmachari in Berkeley, and the temple president just drove up and put a box down on the sidewalk where we were chanting, and that was the book of Isopanisad. That was before BBT. There was only ISKCON Press, and anyway, it's a whole story. And when I saw that book, I began chanting it, the mantras, and that's when Prabhupada ordered me to come and see him. He said that, well, I can tell you. Prabhupada actually said, when he heard what I was doing, he said, this boy has a transcendental brain. And then Prabhupada asked, he wanted me to come and see him, especially. So, so anyway, there's so many things I could talk to you about, but maybe I'll get to the Isopanishad. Basically, of course, you're in Pakistan, I believe. Is anyone here not from Pakistan? Is anyone from somewhere else? I mean, I
There,
know.
there are a
Huh?
couple of them from India, including myself.
Oh, you're from India.
Yeah, few from India, but mostly it's mostly like 85% Pakistan.
Anyway, that's great that you're practicing Krishna consciousness in that situation. So maybe so any questions about all this stuff? If not, I'll go to the Isopanishad. By the way, I'm studying the geography of Pakistan a little bit because I'm working on Great Bharata, the Mahabharata, and so a lot of the Mahabharata takes place in what is now Pakistan, especially the northwest kingdoms like the Kekayas and Shalva and Madra kingdom
Tauvera,
of what?
Tauvera.
Sovira. Yeah, that's way in the south. That's way in the southwest. Okay, so if there's no questions, no one wants a refund. No? Okay, so then we go to the Isopanishad. So I'm going to read the verse, and then we'll talk about it. If I can find it. Thought I had it here. What did I do with it?
Do,
Anyway, I can.
do you want do you want me to put it up in the
Oh
on the
no! Oh
screen?
no! I can get it in a second. Uh, okay, I've got it here. So I'll read the Sanskrit and then the translation. And Prabhupada writes a really brilliant purport for this verse, this Vedic verse. It's quite brilliant. So I'll read that. So of course you know the verse Om Purnamadak Purnamidam. Maybe I'll just tell you a little about the Sanskrit. For those of you who don't know Sanskrit, um, in Sanskrit, in terms of uh, how should I put it, sort of neuter pronouns. Anyway, uh, you can say this, that, or even the farther one. And so in Sanskrit, for example, if you say idam, idam means this. And then if you say tat, it means that. And then if you say asau, that means the far one, the farther one. And in Sanskrit, sort of philosophical jargon, because idam means this, so idam refers to what is directly in front of you. And so what is directly in front of you is the material world. So therefore, idam can simply mean this material world. So it starts out Om Purnamidak, Purnamadak, and Adam means that one farther. So what is farther away is the spiritual world. So this is common Sanskrit philosophical jargon. So Om Purnamidam, Purnamadak Purnamidam. So that over there, meaning that farther spiritual world, that is Purna, full, full, or in fact, the English word full is related cognate grammatically with the Sanskrit word Purna. The P just turns to an F and the R and the L. Anyway, I won't go into all the phonetics of it, but it is actually related to the English word full. So Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachate, because the full or the complete comes from the complete. Udachate. And then Purnat Purnamadaya, and taking the Purna from the Purnam, Purnameva Vasishate. What remains is simply Purna. Purnameva Vasishate. Avashishate means what remains, the remainder. So this is obviously a verse requiring some explanation. So perhaps I'll read Prabhupada's purport quickly, and then we'll talk about it. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Well, first I'll talk about, the first thing that Prabhupada, his translation is not strictly literal, but that's what the verse means. And so there's sort of there's a paradox here. And Prabhupada is focusing on the paradox. A paradox is an apparent contradiction, which upon further analysis is not actually contradictory. It's an apparent, but not a real contradiction. So if you say Purnat Purnamadaya, taking the Purna away from the Purna, all that remains is still Purna. And so clearly this is sort of spiritual subtraction. This is spiritual math, because you take everything away from everything and everything remains. So let's see what Prabhupada says about this. The complete whole, or the supreme absolute truth, is the complete personality of Godhead. Realization of impersonal Brahman or of Paramatma, the supersoul, is incomplete realization of the absolute complete. The supreme personality of Godhead is Satchidananda Vigraha. So if realization of Paramatma is incomplete, imagine, with all due respect, the Mleccha Dharmas. Where they just say you can't say anything about God, God is just God, and so on. Very little information. Very little information about God. So, in fact, some people say you cannot see God, but why would that be the case? If you're a mother or if you're a father, why would you hide from your children? It's so, in fact, if you have children, for the parents, of course, they love the baby and they have a little child, but what really, the real pleasure of the parents is when the child grows enough to actually understand and love the parents. When the child grows into a real relationship where the parents are not merely loving the child, but the child is loving the parents. And that's what makes the relationship strong. And so God is portrayed in different ways, almost like in Christianity, almost like a psychopath, in the sense that he tortures people forever, and or no one can know God, or no one has seen God. How could someone say that no one has seen God? It's interesting because in terms of logic, when you make an absolute negative claim, those are very problematic philosophically. So, for example, if you say there are no large green rabbits in Mumbai right now. So just to give an example, there are no large green rabbits in Mumbai. How would you prove that? You could go because it's an empirical claim, and empirical, it's called in philosophy, it's called the problem of empiricism, which is that empirically you can show something, or you can, if you believe that your senses are giving you reliable information, and you can show something by the empirical method, then most people would take it as a proof. But a negative proof is very difficult because there's an old saying in logic that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. For example, up until fairly recently in history, there was no such thing as X-rays. And if you talked about X-rays, it would be seen as science fiction. Or, for example, before the revolution of quantum physics, they just had Newtonian physics. So things are mythology until people actually discover they're real. Some things are really mythology and they're never real. But so, in the same way, if you wanted to prove, if people say things that are philosophically really stupid, like if there's a God, prove there's a God. And so when you challenge someone to prove there's a God, uh, the word prove, what does that mean? It means to demonstrate something to the satisfaction of another person. But there are different ways of proving things. Even materially, if you were trying to detect sound, that's not the same as detecting heat or detecting motion. And so the empirical method depends on the ability of the scientist to control the object that's being studied. That's why the essence of empiricism is the controlled experiment. So, therefore, by definition, logically, you cannot empirically study something unless you can control it. And what that means is you can't study things that are beyond your control. And so if we just declare that nothing beyond our control exists, that's actually very foolish. So, I mean, there are things beyond your control, like, for example, let's say your neighbor. What if you want to go to see your neighbor, but your neighbor just says, I don't want to see you? Then you cannot see the neighbor. So you can't, to have empirical access to something so you can prove that it exists, there's so many things in the universe beyond our control. God is beyond our control. So the idea of trying to prove God through a method that depends on controlling something, when the whole idea of God as the supreme controller is just, it's really bad experiment design. And so, like, let's say you're trying to get a job, and let's say you really need the job, and the people who are hiring don't really need you. I mean, let's say they have 100 qualified applicants, so they really don't need you, but you really need the job. So you have to prove yourself to them because they're in a superior position. So it's not a question of, proving God. It's a question of, can you prove yourself to God? And then Krishna reciprocates. So I'll go on with that purport. Prabhupada says realization of the personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendental features, Satchit and Ananda bliss. When one realizes the Supreme Person, he realizes these aspects of the Absolute Truth in their completeness. Vigraha means form. Thus, the complete whole is not formless. If he were formless, or if he were less than his creation in any other way, he could not be complete. The complete whole must contain everything both within and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. So, just to talk about this for a minute, um, the basic idea that there is a God, that basic idea, which is found in many religions, usually entails or logically suggests or even requires that God is also the creator of the world. And so therefore, in order to explain God, you have to put forward an idea of God that in fact does explain the world. So if God is impersonal, that doesn't explain the personal nature of the world. First of all, if God were impersonal, he wouldn't want to create the world because desire is personal. Something which is not personal cannot have desires. It's a contradiction. So why would God create the world if he didn't want to? And why would the world be so personal? Why would the world be so personal? So that everywhere you look, for example, if you look at sand crystals, if you look at snowflakes, if you look at the universe through the Webb telescope, everywhere you look, you see not only power, but also art. You see beauty. Many philosophers have said that we have a natural moral instinct. The philosopher Kant occasionally got something right. You know, the German philosopher about 200 years ago, Immanuel Kant, and he said that we all have this intrinsic moral instinct. We know it's wrong, for example, or to kill innocent people. I mean, most people know that. Some people have not figured that out yet, of course. But most people understand that it is intrinsically wrong to kill innocent people. And so, how do you know that? Because there's a moral law within the universe. So, in all these ways, and ultimately, if you come to the mode of goodness, sattva guna, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, you can't teach a dog physics. I mean, as far as we know. So, in other words, a person has to be teachable at a certain level of education. So, what is the qualification to be teachable about Krishna? Well, for one thing, there are different qualifications. I mean, in general, people have to have some connection with the mode of goodness. It's not that there's necessarily a material qualification to know Krishna, but in most cases, people who are very sinful, with exceptions, it's difficult to understand. So if we come to the mode of goodness, then we can actually see the truth. Krishna says it in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Atra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamya, that even sattva is enlightening. So maybe just to conclude all this, what Prabhupada really wanted, is that we understand Krishna consciousness as a spiritual science. It's a spiritual science. It's a non-sectarian spiritual science. I know in the West, even Christian philosophers, those who are actually philosophers, they're always talking about faith and justifying faith and why you should have faith. The Bhagavad Gita has a very different approach. It's about tattva darshana. It's about seeing the truth. Throughout the Gita, Krishna talks about deep knowledge as direct experience, pratyakshavagamam. You directly understand it. You see it. You see the truth. And so, what's really needed in the world is for us to become spiritual scientists, to understand Prabhupada's books and Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam in a very clear, intelligent way, and then explain it to others. So I think devotees who are in Pakistan, I think you deserve extraordinary amount of credit. Obviously, not the easiest situation in the world. And so, yeah, I give you lots of credit. I think you are special souls. The fact that in that unusual situation, that you are advancing in Krishna consciousness. So, at this point, are there any questions on these topics?
I think they are in complete awe of you. They're awestruck.
Me? No, it's just me.
Yes,
So
question. There's a
yes,
question,
there.
Maharaj.
What's that?
There's a hand up, Maharaj.
Oh, someone has a hand up.
Yeah. Barkha, go
So
ahead.
yeah,
Hare
go
Krishna
ahead.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I have one question. Just like you said, the qualification to be teachable of Krishna, it's like we have at least a bit of connection to the mode of goodness. Can you elaborate that, like mode of goodness connection, like a personal connection, or a connection to a person who follows mode of goodness? Like any connection?
Thank you. So okay, very good. First, I'll say there are exceptional cases like Jagai and Madhai, who are definitely not in the mode of goodness. But of course, that was Christian Leela, and there are cases like that of degraded people. So it's not an iron rule. But actually, all around the world, let me put it this way: all around the world, throughout history, in all religions, you find people who were in the mode of goodness and therefore understood something about the soul, something about God. So the way Rupa Goswami describes it is Ado Shraddha. Ado means in the beginning. Shraddha, there has to be some trust. And that can simply be that, I mean, everyone is pursuing their self-interest as they understand it. And so in Sanskrit, of course, that is swartha, swartha, one's own interest or self-interest. And Prahlad Maharaj says, Nate vidu, that materialistic people, Nate vidu, they don't understand, they don't know. That Swartha Gati, the real way to pursue your self-interest, Swartha Gati, is Vishnu. So Rupa Goswami says that dosha in the beginning, someone has to at least believe or trust, Shraddha, that there's something good here. It's like if someone goes to a restaurant and they think, okay, what will I like? Or, what food will I like? Or if you're choosing a friend, you try to choose a friend who you think will be a good friend or interesting or not betray you and so on. And so if you think about it, at every moment in life, we're making choices of what we think is in our real interest. Should I go to school? Which school should I go to? What should I study? Should I marry this person? Should I not marry that person? Should I, whatever. So we're constantly making choices. We're constantly calculating, often just unconsciously, what's in my interest? What will I like? What will be good for me? And so Prahlad says, Nate vidu, they don't know. People, materialistic people don't know. Swartha gati, the real way, gati, the Sanskrit word gati means going. That's where we get the English word go from Sanskrit go. It's the same word. So Swartha gati, the real way, the way to go to your self-interest is Vishnu. So in the beginning, as Rupa Goswami says, Ado Shraddha, in the beginning, Shraddha, and this word Shraddha is defined in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a formal definition of this word, which is Shraddha Shabde, which means by the word Shraddha. Vishwasa Kahe, one actually means Vishas or trust. Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kahe, which is Sudrid Dhanishay, a very firm conviction. This is super literal translation. Sudridha Nischaya, very firm conviction that Krishna Bhakti Koile, by rendering devotional service to Krishna, Sarva Karma Krita Hoy, every action will be done. Everything will be done. Because, we want to be healthy, we want to be happy, we want to have friends, we want to be peaceful and have a spiritual life. But we have so many, but the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Sarva karma krita hoy. You understand it's simple. That every duty will be done. Just like at the end of Bhagavad Gita, the last thing in the Bhagavad Gita, where Sanjaya tells Dhritarashtra, forget about it, Maharaj, it's not going to happen. Your sons are not going to win this battle. And then he says that at the end of the Gita, whoever hears this Gita becomes krita kritya. Their duty is done. And so if you tie all these things together, just like that famous verse in the second chapter of the Gita, and when Prabhupada read the purport, that's what kind of really galvanized his determination to come to the West, where Krishna says, how does that go? Not possible, I forgot it. Oh yes,
Vyavasaya.
Vyavasaya, what Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Buddhi, which is Vyavasayatmika. And so a little Sanskrit never hurt anybody. So Vyavasaya, of course, means determination. And Atmika. Atmika in Sanskrit, of course, you know the word Atma, which is self or soul. So Atmika is sort of a diminutive like Radhika or Gopika or Atmika. And it's like in Spanish they say itu, like muchachito, a little boy. So so atmika, vyavasayatmika means the very soul of this is determination. Vyavasaya atmika. So it's buddhi, it's rational intelligence. And also the word buddhi also, by the way. If you look at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, 20 through 22, it's the Triguna Gyan, and then 30 through 32 is Triguna Buddhi. And the difference between Gyan and Buddhi in the Bhagavad Gita, Buddhi is like analytic intelligence. That's what scientists do. You try to understand things by breaking them down into their smallest parts. But then jnana is like what we would call worldview. When you put all the pieces together, what's the worldview? So interestingly, Krishna says in the Gita that you will come to me by spiritual, rational intelligence. Teshang satata juktanam, for them who are always engaged in connected to me. Teshang satata juktanam bhajatang priti purvakam, worshiping me with love. Dadami, I give them something, jena mam upajantite, by which they come to me. And what Krishna gives them is buddhi yoga. Also, one more point about this buddhi, and then, sorry, you're getting a deluxe answer, but Prabhupada titled the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Contents of the Gita Summarized. So the first chapter of Krishna's teachings, chapter 2, Krishna is sort of giving a summary. He's giving a summary. And so what's interesting is that this whole second chapter, it pivots in the middle, because Krishna says at 239 that Esha te bihita sankhye buddhir, that in chapter 2, in verse 239, Krishna says, everything I just told you, like you're not your body, and you've always existed, and you always will exist. So Krishna says, everything I just told you is buddhi. It's actually buddhi. It's rational, intelligent. It's reason, but sankhya in a philosophical sense. And then he says, Vyavasayami, I'm sorry, Esha te bihita sankhye buddhir yoge tu imang shrinu. And now hear of buddhi in practice. So it's like philosophy in practice. And the words for philosophy and practice in Sanskrit are Sankhya and Buddhi. I'm sorry. Whoops, don't sue me. Sankhya and Yoga. And then, of course, Krishna says in chapter 5 that only the childish think that philosophy and practice are different. Sankhya Yoga pratak bala pravadanti na pandita. The wise don't say that philosophy and practice are separate, because ekamapi asitak samyak. If you get one of them right, if you really do one of them properly, you get the benefit of both. So the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna characterizes the whole Bhagavad Gita as spiritual analytic philosophy. And so in that verse, Vyavasayatmika buddhir, buddhi, literally, whose very soul is Vyavasaya, Atmika, whose very soul is Vyavasaya, determination. You've really made up your mind. And of course, to advance in Krishna consciousness, you do have to make up your mind. So, Vyavasayatmika buddhire keha kurunandana, bahushaka, many branches, hinantascha, indeed unlimited, buddhiyo, literally the intelligences, or the way I translate that in English is the reasonings. The reasonings of Vyavasayanam, those who have not really made up their mind, they're not really determined. So remind me, you can state your question again?
The question was like, how to like mainly connect with the mode of goodness? Is it through someone or in our own?
Oh, right.
Just like you said, the Shraddha part and other things connecting
Right.
with buddhi and intelligence.
Right.
Yes, I'll explain.
I would quote that old saying, gold
Yeah,
is where
thank
you,
you, Maharaj.
yeah, I think the answer is gold is where you find it. So, for example, let's say you discover one of Prabhupada's books, which is obviously Vishuddha Sattva, purified goodness. That will take you there. Or if you meet a devotee, or, somehow or other. Rupa Goswami says, Jaina Kena Prakarena, some way or other. Mano Krishna Nivesayet. You have to fix your mind in Krishna. Everyone has their story, everyone has their little back to Godhead article of how I came to Krishna consciousness. And people come in, but all roads lead to Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So, any other question?
Maharaj, there's a couple of hands up.
Yeah, okay. Lata, is that Lata?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Do you have a camera?
Yes, actually, my network is very. I am having issue of camera, so I cannot turn on my camera right now.
That's okay. Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a question that means you said you cannot prove God because it's like you have to prove yourself to the God, right?
Yeah,
So
so if you prove yourself to Krishna, he will prove himself to you.
okay, like Prahlada.
Yes, and it's not all or nothing. In other
Yes.
words,
Okay.
Krishna is, unlike what you hear some places, Krishna is actually a nice guy. And so if you show a little bit of sincerity, Krishna will reciprocate. Krishna says, Jai jata mam prapadyante. As people approach me, tam sataiv bhajamya, I reciprocate. So, I mean, that's what you do. If you meet someone and you're wondering, is this person going to be a friend of mine? Do I want this person as a friend, or do I want this person as a serious friend, or even, husband or wife or whatever? Then you test the person. You see, does this person reciprocate? Like, I'm trying to be nice to this person, but this person's kind of a bum. Or this person, is this person actually reciprocating with me or not? Is this someone I want as my friend? And so you can, so to speak, put your toe in the water, before you dive in. And so Krishna, as we approach Krishna, he reciprocates with us. And then at a certain point, it becomes obvious that Krishna is there and that I have to give myself to Krishna.
Prabhuji, if a person is suffering from childhood, means he hasn't got any sign from God yet, no happiness, no nothing else. So how we prove to that person that the God exists? Means now if he's not happy, if he's
Yes.
not like he's only
Well,
suffering. So
maybe it's, if there's someone who's unhappy, it doesn't mean it's God's fault.
hmm,
People, if someone wants to be the center of their own universe, it's going to be a very, very, very microscopic universe. And so if someone's not happy, the obvious reason is because they're not making God happy. If you take this basic principle that Krishna reciprocates, then if you're not happy, well, maybe Krishna's not having a great time with you either. it's sort of stuck in your heart, maybe you are really boring or just, you know, just not a very nice person in relation to God. So if you're, in other words, that's what I do. If I mean, I'm very rarely not happy, but if I ever there's a moment where I think I'm not happy, immediately don't fall into Maya's trap. Okay, I'm not happy. How can I make myself happy? If you feel unhappy, you should immediately think, uh-oh, why am I not pleasing Krishna now?
Mm.
Otherwise, it's like it's like if you feel your hand is weak, so you try to feed your hand, Prabhupada's example, which comes from the Bhagavatam, uh, you know, yata tador mulini sechanena, that's from the Bhagavatam, just like by watering the root of the tree, tripyanti tatskanda, the trunk is satisfied, bhujopasaka, and all the branches and twigs. So pranopaharat, by delivering food to the stomach. So that impulse, I'm not happy, I want to make myself happy, that's Maya's trick. If I'm not happy, then I'm doing something wrong and I'm not making Krishna happy. So I call a timeout and just think, okay, how can I make Krishna happy? And if someone is not willing to even experiment or investigate, that person is just sort of a loser. I mean, at least in this life. And so, I mean, we want to help everybody, but, like there's a nice George Harrison song, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't, that's an old saying. So you can lead a conditioned soul to Krishna, but you can't make them drink the nectar.
Mm.
And so that attitude, which is actually very kind of selfish and narcissistic, like, okay, bring God before me, show me God, make me happy. It's like, and who are you, by the way? So it's kind of this narcissistic nonsense. I mean, Krishna is not lonely, he's not miserable, he's having a great time. And so it's you that need help.
Mm.
And some people just are not open at this point in their life, maybe later.
Maybe Prabhuji, to make us happy, we need to work on Krishna's happiness.
Yes, because
Okay.
Krishna says, I reciprocate. As soon as you
Mm.
please Krishna, you'll be happy. And
Okay.
trying to make yourself happy is just a colossal waste of time. Because the more I try to make myself happy, the more I'm not putting Krishna in the center and I'm actually making myself unhappy. That's why all these super rich people are so miserable and frankly and often stupid. Because if you look at the things they buy all these stupid things like these fancy cars or this or that. I mean, if you just look what they buy, they're obviously not very intelligent. And of course, some of them, spend their money wisely. So, I mean, every billionaire you ever talked to said, yeah, actually, this can't make you happy. So it's a question of buddhi again. You have to be intelligent. So, Rocky,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Um,
Hare
I want
Krishna, Om
I want
Shanti.
uh, 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 I want to say that sometimes like situations are the same. That is not changeable because of our life pastime karmas. So sometimes we feel in that same situation we feel the peace. So it means like I feel that this is what I mean Krishna reciprocates.
Yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
uh, yes.
Because
So
Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is everywhere. So in any situation, you can find Krishna. It's not that you can say, well, actually, Krishna doesn't live in my town.
mm,
Or, I mean, Krishna's always everywhere. And he's in our heart. And no one can take that away. No one, no government, no family, no one can take Krishna out of your heart. And so whatever's going on outside inside in your heart, you have absolute freedom. So, anything else?
Maharaj, Krishna Priya has got a question.
Who?
It's our host,
Oh,
Krishna Priya.
where's Krishna Priya?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I have a question from the translation of that invocation. Uh, it is mentioned here that all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal word, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes, and whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. So I have a confusion in this regard. I have two confusions. One is that Maharaj, if as you also mentioned that Krishna not is not feeling loneliness, we actually need his help. So being complete in itself, like we are complete in ourselves. And I have read in other books of Prabhupada that the when a jiva serves Krishna, he becomes satisfied. So being complete in ourselves, how our satisfaction is depending on the service of Krishna. We are already complete in ourselves. And other confusion is that it is this phenomenal world. So how can we see this material world is also complete? So I just want to know a little bit more about it.
That's a very good question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Very-
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. When it said this world is complete, Purnamidam, this world is complete, it doesn't mean that it's complete without God. Because actually, Krishna, it's complete because Krishna is here. And Krishna is giving us all facility. And that's what makes it complete. But also it's complete for a particular purpose. Like, for example, let's say you want to cook a feast, and then someone says, okay, we're doing a program, here's a kitchen, it's a complete kitchen. It has everything you need, all the pots and pans and knives and spoons, and just it's a complete kitchen. Well, yes, but it's not a complete movie theater. I mean, that's not what it is. It's not a complete hospital. It's not a complete, I don't know, computer repair shop. It's a specific thing. It's a complete kitchen. And so to be complete means complete for a specific purpose. So there's a purpose to this world, and it's complete for that purpose. And it's complete because it comes with a warranty, guarantee. Like you buy a computer and you get a warranty. So the warranty for the material world is found in Bhagavad Gita. That yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. If the machine breaks, Krishna says, whenever the machine breaks, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati abhyutanam adharmasya, and adharm is rising, then I come and I do a repair. Tadat manam sajamiham. So the material world is created with a warranty. You get a free service contract. And in a sense, it's complete because here you are, an individual soul in this huge universe. And your purpose is obviously to go back to Krishna. And so complete for that purpose. Everything you need to live a peaceful life here and also to qualify yourself to go back to Krishna, everything is here for that purpose. So, for example, you give so many, for example, the world's not, anyway, Krishna, he even gives us this freedom to have all kinds of virtual reality experiences because our bodies are just machines. We're inside these machines. Krishna says that, yantra rudhani, the soul has been, put into this machine. And so if you, even if someone in their delusion wants to, feel what it's like to be God, then you can have this experience where you think you're the dictator of a country, or some, foolish man will think I'm the proprietor of this woman, or I have all this money and so on. Of course, because that's nonsense, then eventually it leads to all kinds of suffering. But that's what I would say. The world is complete for its purpose. Actually, Aristotle talked about that. The philosopher Aristotle, Bhakta Aristotle. He said that because in Greece at the time, there was this debate going on, this multi-generational debate, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, about what is the meaning of arete, which in Greek means virtue. What does it mean to be virtuous? In other words, what does it mean to be good? And so Aristotle said that for a thing to be good, it has to be good at doing what it's meant to do. Like, for example, a good knife is a knife that cuts properly, or has a handle so you don't cut yourself when you're cutting. Or, what is a good mango tree? It gives good mangoes. So what is a good world? It's a world that perfectly helps people to go back to Krishna.
Thank you so much,
So,
Maharaj.
my pleasure. How do you pronounce that? Mehak Mulani? Is that right?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a
Hare Krishna.
question that it's in the translation. It is written that even so many complete unit animate from him, he is still remain the complete. So how does it is possible that everything animate from the God and he is still remain the matlab complete or balance?
It's a good question. Because to emanate from Krishna, and by the way, this is not taking place in material time. As Krishna explains, Nate vaham jatu nasam natwang, never did I not exist, nor you, and nor in the future will we not be. So the word emanate should not be understood in a chronological sense, that we didn't exist and then Krishna emanated us and now we exist. So we have always existed. And Krishna is always in our heart. And Krishna says, Mama Teja. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's 15, is it 8? Krishna says, Mama Ivangsa Jiva Loke. You probably all know that verse. Tell you what verse number it is. 15:7. Mama Ivangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Literally, the living being is part of me alone. So it's not that, let's say, a million years ago, Krishna wasn't as great as he is now. So Krishna has potencies. We are the internal potency. So it's not that, because if we didn't exist before, that would mean that Krishna had less potency in the past. So Krishna is complete because everything is within Krishna. That was the whole point of chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna saw the whole universe within Krishna. And so that's what the Isopanisad says. What is that? What is that verse? Antar Bihir. What is that verse? Let's see. I'll get it for you. Let's see. Database, Isopanisad, where Krishna specifically, here it is. Let's see. Find the verse now. Where it says like Krishna walks and doesn't walk. He's very near but very far. Okay, it's mantra 5, where the Upanishad says Tarantarasya Sarvasya. He is within everything, but Taru Sarvasyasya Bhayati. He's outside of everything. So Krishna is outside the universe and the spiritual world, but he's also inside everyone's heart, and he's in every atom. Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam. In the Brahma Samhita, Krishna is within the universe, he's in every atom. So, so this world is complete because Krishna pervades this world and also contains this world. So I hope that was understandable.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
My pleasure. So there's someone named Varsha that wants, and then Damini, they want to ask questions.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare
I'm lit-
Krishna.
I have little bit confusion about when we feel happy. What should we understand? Are we thinking that Krishna is pleased with us, or are we just trying to adjust ourselves in this material world?
Well, first of all, we should adjust ourselves in this world. I mean, why? That's why Krishna goes to all the trouble to explain the three modes of nature. For in over 20, like 21, 22 different things, like food in the modes of nature, action in the modes of nature, and so why is he explaining all that? Because sattva-guna is favorable for Krishna consciousness. Sattva-guna without Krishna is not sufficient because you'll just keep going around in the gunas. But in Krishna consciousness, sattva guna is favorable. And so, therefore, that's why Krishna is explaining it. There's um, there's actually a common misunderstanding. I don't know if it reached Pakistan yet, among devotees, that devotees don't cultivate good qualities. Of course they do, but they don't cultivate good qualities separate from Krishna. Prabhupada was constantly telling his disciples, be clean, don't make a mess, or, you should be healthy, or you should be nice to the people you're trying to preach. Prabhupada was constantly training his disciples to have good qualities, but we don't cultivate them without Krishna. We do it in Krishna consciousness. But yeah, that's why is Krishna taking all of his valuable time to explain the three modes of nature? Because we're supposed to cultivate them, the goodness.
We recently, Maharaj, covered Bhagavad Gita chapter 12, and that was this list of all qualities, and Yadunan Maharaj was explaining pretty much the same point, like cultivating
Yes.
these good qualities.
Which Maharaj?
Yadunandan Swami Maharaj?
Oh, I like him. He's a really good guy. I like him. So let's see. Damini. How do you pronounce your name?
Damini.
Damini.
Yes. Hare Krishna Maharaj and Pranam. So actually I want to ask, as everything is under Krishna's control, so why is Maya so strong that even a devotee can get trapped by it?
Even devotee can get what?
Trapped by it, like he why Maya so strong that even devotee is caged by the Maya. He's
Oh, well,
trapped by
Maya,
it. Yeah.
Krishna says, Daivi Hyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya, because Maya is Krishna's potency. And so Krishna is very strong, but you have to be a good customer in the sense of, you have to take that strength. Krishna is offering you the strength, but you have to take it. It's not that you can just go limp and, like Krishna's some kind of, like, I don't know, taxi driver. You just sit back and relax and, he'll drive your car. The point, like Krishna drove Arjuna's chariot, but Arjuna was also fighting. He wasn't just kind of, enjoying the ride. He also had his duty. So if you really, and sometimes Krishna creates situations to force us to take shelter, like even in Vrindavan, the residents in Vrindavan, when Indra was trying to flood Vrindavan and kill everyone, the residents in Vrindavan just cried out to Krishna. Or when there was a fire, or there was some big demon. So yes, Krishna, and also Krishna is training us to be, should I put it, to be individual souls. The souls, it's not that surrender to Krishna means, okay, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? I don't have a favorite flavor. Whatever is offered to Krishna. Or what, that's not our philosophy. We are part of Krishna. Therefore, you are an individual. You have your preferences. You like things or you don't like things. But of course, we're always thinking what's favorable for Krishna. if I'm, let's say, preparing a feast for Hare Krishna festival, and it turns out that everyone that's coming to the festival wants vanilla ice cream, I'm not going to say, well, I like chocolate ice cream. So I mean, for Krishna's service, we can do things that will help other souls or please Krishna. But I mean, sometimes they say like, okay, you should only offer these preparations to the deities because this is what Krishna likes. And I would say, well, how do you know? Because actually, when Krishna talks about the different foods in the Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't say, offer me with devotion, a pakora, a chapati, and I will accept it. When Krishna talks about food in the Gita, he talks about the mode of goodness. So it's ironic because in the name of offering the deity what the deity really wants, in many temples, they just offer this super rajoguna food that you become like a dragon when you eat it. It's so hot. It's a very important distinction, the distinction between ethnic details and cultural principles. And this is a whole topic. So, for example, you could say to wear a dhoti or sari or whatever is an ethnic detail. I mean, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not the cultural principle is that if you go to what is called in the Vedas a Deva Griha, the house of God or a mandir, then you should dress very respectfully. So I think, if we, especially in the West, of course, you're not in the West right now, although hope someday you'll all come and visit us. But in the West, that's something which is not always understood among devotees, that we want to take things in the mode of goodness, spiritualize them by using them for Krishna. So it's not a question of trying to impose ethnic details on people, but rather cultural, spiritual principles. So let's see. Oh, Tulsi Devi, I've heard of you. You're very famous. Tulsi.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. I have a question related to the translation. Okay,
Yes.
there is the first word which is used, Om. Okay, Om means the complete whole. But I want to ask that
Well,
what?
no. Actually, Om doesn't mean the complete whole. Om means God or the divine. And so Om, it's a way of beginning a sacred Vedic mantra. The word complete whole is Purna.
Okay, so I want to ask that what really Om is, and the second question is it also refers to Shiva's sign.
To
Okay,
what? It refers to what?
sign.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Shivji sign, like
Oh,
Shiva.
Lord
Shiva,
Shiva's.
Yeah,
Mahadev.
Lord Shiva's. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. It also refers to it. So what like really means?
Well, Shiva, Mahadeva, is a representative of Krishna. The Brahma Samhita explains that. Kshirang jata dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahita tak pritagasti heto. I'll tell you which verse that is actually in the Brahma Samhita. Let's see. Kshirang jata dadi vikara. That's the Brahma Samhita, verse number 45. And so I'll read it for you. It says, just as milk is transformed into yogurt by a specific transformative process. And therefore, the yogurt, in one sense, is not different from the milk because the milk is the source of the yogurt. So, in the same way, Jak Shambhu Tam, Shambhu is Shiva, so Shambhu Tam means the position of Shiva. Jak Shambhu Tam Apita Tasmu Paiti Karyat, because of Karya, a specific job that has to be done, Krishna takes on the form of Shiva. Therefore, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Shambhu or Shiva or Mahadev is the yogurt. Krishna is the original milk. So, so in that sense, The Vedic culture is not fanatical. And so it recognizes people are different stages of spiritual evolution. And therefore, the Vedic culture kind of meets you where you're at. And Krishna talks about this, by the way, a lot in the Gita. He says, Jo Jo Jang Jang Tanu Bhakta. Whoever endeavors to worship whatever form of the divine, in every case, I make their faith strong. So that's a practical application of Krishna's reciprocity. So if you are not ready yet to understand Krishna, then you can do something else for now. It's like one of those big stores. There's something for everyone. And so Krishna talks a lot about this in chapter 7 of the Gita, that where he actually, because he's reciprocating, you have free will. So if you want to worship in a certain way, Krishna says, all right, you do it, and then you'll find out what it is. And Krishna even says, and I, Tamev vidhamyaham. Labateta tatakaman, tameva vidhamyaham. You didn't get what you wanted. So people are in all different religions and they say, yeah, I did this and then I felt better, or I got this blessing or whatever. But Krishna says, actually, I alone am giving those things. I'm reciprocating with everyone. So Krishna consciousness is the postdoctoral course in God. And the difference is that in most of the conceptions of God, it's like when like a child. The child thinks the parents just exist to take care of the child. I remember when I was a kid in LA, maybe even like, 10 or 11 years old, and parents would sometimes, we were old enough, sometimes the parents would leave us alone because there wasn't any crime where I lived, or they have a babysitter. And I almost felt like, not resented, but like my parents, like, why are you going out? Why are you having your own life? You're supposed to just be here and provide for us. And so that notion of God, that God provides everything for you, it's nice, but it's childish. In the higher level of devotional service, we want to serve Krishna. We want to give everything to Krishna. That's the higher level. So it's very interesting because if you look at, for example, avatar theology, the idea that the Dashavataras, or actually there's unlimited avatars. And so what's interesting, if you study the history of Indian religion or Vedic religion, the expression keeping up with the Joneses, like trying to keep up with the neighbors. So the Shaivas were always trying to keep up with the Vaishnavas. So the first great temples were Vaishnav temples. Then, of course, they had to build big Shiva temples. Or the Avatar theology, they thought, well, the Shaivas thought, well, yeah, we also should have avatars. It just never worked. They put it in the market, but no one bought it because it was artificial. It really is Krishna who has all these amazing avatars. There's no book like the Bhagavad Gita focused on Shiva or Devi or this or that. The greatest books of India, Mahabharata, is Vaishnav Shastra. Ramayana is Vaishnav Shastra. Bhagavad Gita is Vaishnav Shastra. And everyone knows that Vishnu is the Sattva avatar for those in goodness. So because Sattva Gun, also the Brahmanas are those in Sattva Gun. So Krishna is the Brahmana Devata. He's the natural deity of the Brahmins in Vedic culture. And so, of course, we respect all these different great personalities. And they are great personalities, but there's just no one like Krishna. Krishna is unique. And therefore he says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Ekam, me alone. Eka means one, and then it also means alone, like only. If you think of the word only, it has the word one in it, O-N. And even the word unique has the UN, which is Latin for one. So the word one in many languages is connected to the word unique, only, alone. And the same word eka functions that way in Sanskrit. So, Krishna's the guy. And there are many great personalities, but Krishna's too Bhagavan Swayam. There are many angshas, there are many kalas, there are many expansions of Krishna. Shiva, in one sense, is an expansion, a particular kind of expansion of Krishna, Vishesha, Kala, and but ultimately Krishna is too Bhagavan Swayam, Ishvara Parama Krishna. The Supreme Lord is Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiraja Govinda Sarva Karana Karnam. It's like, if they say if everything else fails, read the instructions. So it's it's right there in Shastra. So Jagadish Giri Hari, that's sort of a deluxe name.
Thank you so much.
Then Pranam Maharaj ji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji, Hare Krishna. So I have a question. Like in this verse, we are reading Krishna is all perfect and complete. So isn't the case like if we are saying Krishna is complete, so there must be the potency or the scope of Krishna being completely null or void, or
No,
show himself in the empty way, like
no,
uh,
because
mhm,
nil or null. No, because
mhm,
it's not something. Actually, that
mhm,
philosophical mistake was pointed out 2,500 years ago by a famous Greek philosopher named Parmenides, who I think was influenced by India. And he said that people make this mistake because linguistically, not ontologically. Ontologically means the nature of existence itself. Linguistically is just talking about, well, it's the way we talk about things. So linguistically, the word something is a word and the word nothing is a word. They're both equally words. However, nothing doesn't refer to anything. And so you could say, well, Krishna should be the Lord of nothing, but there is no such thing as nothing. Nothing means there's nothing. And so the idea that, or just like, for example, you have these sort of very problematic theologies, like in Christian theology, that creation ex nihilo. Nihilo in Latin means nothing, like nil. So the idea that God creates from nothing, Krishna rejects that. Natvevaham jatu nasa natvam. Never did I not exist, nor you, and we will always exist. Krishna, there are only two kinds of things. There is, Krishna says, nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. That's also in the beginning of chapter 2, where Krishna says that there are things which are sat and asat. So things that are sat, they have always existed, they always will exist. Therefore, the idea that you did not exist and then now you exist and you'll exist forever, no. Because if you will exist forever, it means you always existed. The philosophical mistake people make is they don't understand that eternality, to be eternal, is not just a huge amount of material time. Eternal is not an unlimited amount of material time. It is something beyond material time. It exists beyond material past, present, and future. So to say Krishna never says, I am the Lord of nothing, because that would mean he's not the Lord. So it's philosophy.
okay. And one more question, like Maharaj ji,
Yeah.
like when we say Krishna loves us unconditionally, so why does he say is like ye yathamam prapadyante, as one reciprocates, he reciprocates.
Because
So
he's
mhm,
not gonna spoil you and turn you into he's not gonna turn you into a spoiled brat. That's why. So therefore, if you want Krishna's mercy, you have to earn it. That's what a good father does. That's what a good mother does. We see sometimes these parents that just give their children everything, and their children turn out to be incredibly obnoxious. And so it's that's just good parenting, reciprocation.
yeah, understood. Dhanyavad Maharaj ji.
Hare Krishna. So, Meena Darwani. Come in, please. Meena, is she there?
Hare Krishna,
She's
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I want to ask that just like as if when you were not Krishna conscious, you were like when you stand in front of Krishna, you are feeling like you are connected to God, you are connected to Krishna. But since when you started to learning Krishna conscious, and suddenly you become numb, like like if you are standing in front of the Krishna's deity and you are offering in something, you are doing mala, and you don't feel like your heart don't feel like that spark you were feeling previously, and you were trying to do it and you're trying to make it like a feeling of that spark, and you're trying to do dhyan, but still you are unable to do it. So I want to ask, is it the that is it's a sign that Krishna is not happy with us, or if it's not so, that how to overcome this feeling and how to more conscious about it, how to
Well,
feel like
yeah,
we are
it's
connected to
yeah,
Krishna.
sometimes Krishna gives you what they call like a special introductory offer. And
Okay.
so Krishna, like a freebie, Krishna will say, okay, you haven't done that much for me, but here's, just to encourage you. But then you have to earn it.
And uh,
I mean,
what
you should think like, what's it
I
like for
tried.
Krishna? What's it like for Krishna to see you? I mean, we are not always so thrilling, to Krishna. And so again, if you're not feeling that spark, if you're not feeling happy, you should ask yourself, why would Krishna be really pleased with me right now? And
Okay.
so it's
And is there any way, because this thought keep us keep us like haunting,
well,
or
that's
we are
good. I mean, because if you didn't have that thought, yeah, you wouldn't wake up. Krishna is trying to get your attention. When
okay.
Krishna, when you go to see the deity or when you chant and you're not feeling ecstatic, it means Krishna is trying to tell you something.
And what is the way like we can find this like what we can feel the spark? What is the way basically?
Well, maybe you should make Krishna feel the spark.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, the
Thank you.
point is Krishna reciprocates. So if you're not feeling inspired, then you are not really, you're not very exciting for Krishna either.
Okay.
And so that's what you should think. Krishna reciprocates perfectly. If you're not satisfied, then you should rethink how you are dealing with Krishna. It's not bhakti mimamsa. It's not automatic. You just go to see the deities, or you bow down, or you chant Hare Krishna. It's like one of those machines where you put in a coin, and get a Coca-Cola or something. Krishna is not a dispensing machine. It's not. It's very personal.
Thank you, Maharaj.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Hare Krishna. So let's see. Baraka Hotwani.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have one more question, which is
Yeah,
like
two for the price of one today.
basically it's related to this. It's like just like we said, the one's graph, it just it's an exponential decay. It just goes down and up, down and up. So I really want to know, how was your determination? How were you so determined? Like, you took sannyas in such young age, at like in the age of 23, and then you still keep going, and you never had that thought like, oh my god, did I do it, like when I was so young? Just like you said, was I too enthusiastic about it? So, any thoughts like that? We really want to know.
Uh, well,
trying
I
not to
think
be a personal interview, Maharaj,
that's okay. Yeah. Um, actually, I was sort of born to preach. And you can say past lives, whatever. But so when I took sannyas, what was difficult for me, and because I was married, and I had a good wife, and we're still friends. I mean, she's a nice devotee. But personally, this is just personal. I'm not saying you all have to do this, but personally, I really wanted to spend all my time just teaching about Krishna. And so in family life, of course, you have to get a job or someone has to work and you have to take care of the family. And so it's not that I didn't like my wife. She was a nice devotee, but I just really had this ecstatic higher taste of teaching Krishna consciousness. So I'm not trying to be like Narda, stealing all the prachetas here. But and of course, everyone is different. So we have different backgrounds. Some people have been devotees for many lives, some people less. But I think the secret is just find your own position, find what's natural for you. That's why Krishna gave 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, because so everybody, there's something for everybody. Everybody can find something that works for them.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Actually, I took sannyas because I found out that sannyasis get free lunch. So I thought, well, that's really good.
Nobody should take.
So any other question?
I think they can't get enough of you. There might be more questions. They're sending chats. They're sending the things to main chats. So then yes. Yeah,
Well, let's see
Shobha
the chat.
Lalwani.
Yes.
Where is
Hare
Shobha
Krishna,
Lalwani?
Hare
Go
Krishna
ahead.
Maharaj ji. Dandat Pranam
Oh,
Maharaj ji.
yes.
Maharaj, we wanted to know your journey.
My journey?
Yeah, 0 to 100, or what's your
Journey?
yeah, your journey.
You mean like how I came here to this?
Yeah, how when you started your spiritual life and how you came at that stage where you are now.
Oh, well, I was very fortunate in a sense, in a mundane sense. I was born in California, in Los Angeles. I had a very nice family, very loving parents, and we never really lacked anything. And I had lots of friends. And by the way, it has, best weather in the United States. It doesn't get too hot in the summer, it doesn't get cold in the winter. So anyway, so I had a nice life, and then I went away to school, and I think Krishna arranged for me to have that nice situation so that I would not fall into the trap of thinking that material things will make me happy. Because living in a nice place and having a nice family and going to very good schools, having lots of friends, and I still realize that there's something really missing. There's something very, very important that's missing from my life. And then I was able to understand, well, that's God. Then I saw the devotees chanting on the street and on the campus. They used to come to my campus. And and then Prabhupada came. Prabhupada came in sort of around this, maybe like February, March in 1969. Prabhupada came to Berkeley and gave a talk. And that's really what, that was it. My material life was kind of over. As soon as I saw Prabhupada, the first time I saw him in this life, it was we were speaking on campus. He was speaking on campus, and I was actually a little skeptical because when I was young, I took this sociology class. It was Introduction to Sociology. So one of the topics was sociology of religion. So we had to go to all these, Catholic church or Jewish thing or Hindu, and then write these little reports. So I went to see this Swami, Hindu Swami, and I almost got kicked out of the program, actually. I mean, I was only 18 years old because I almost burst out laughing. You know, when you're young and you get like the giggles and you can't stop laughing. So because he was sitting there like in this sannyas robe, and he wasn't saying it, he just kept saying, relax, everything is all right. Do not worry. And it seemed so absurd to me that he's just telling us to relax and be happy that I just, yeah, I mean, I was, when you're young, I almost burst out laughing. I almost got kicked out of the program because I was like, I couldn't control myself. I was laughing so much. And so that was my impression of an Indian Swami. So then one day in 1969, around February, March, I was walking home and I ran into the devotees. They used to come there. And I liked the devotees. I thought they must really be sincere with those haircuts. Because, in those days, that was the days, of hair and people had long hair. And I thought, oh my God, these people must be incredibly sincere to have those funny haircuts. So then so when they invited me to see Prabhupada, for a moment I thought, is this going to be another comical Swami? So I thought, well, I'll go to see. So I went in, and in those days, 60s, California, everyone wanted to experience. The whole thing was experience. You have to directly experience things. And so I liked it. So I walked into the auditorium and I walked past all the seats and I sat down on the floor with the devotees because I thought, I want to experience this. So then Prabhupada came in through the back. Prabhupada came in and he was surrounded by these, his disciples. I think Tamal Krishna was there and Vishnu Jana, all these great devotees. And the first time I just looked at Prabhupada, I remember I just looked at him coming into the auditorium. And the first thing I thought was that he's powerful and he has authority, which in those days, all the student revolution, we didn't think anyone had authority. Our parents, we loved our parents, but they didn't understand anything. And the teachers didn't really understand the government, forget the government. And so, but it was almost like the first time in my life, as when I, wasn't just a child, that I really just felt this person has tremendous authority. And so then he walked in, he sat down in the Vyasasana, and the kirtan began. And I had never been exposed to, let us say, ecstatic religious ceremonies. In Judeo-Christian religion, you go to this nice church or synagogue and, okay, everybody, please stand up, turn to page 78, let us sing this, please sit down. It's all very formal. And so when the kirtan started, the devotees were ecstatic, and I was right in the middle of it, and I was, I'd never experienced that kind of thing. And then Prabhupada stood up from his Vyasasana and he began to dance and actually jump. And Prabhupada at that time, that was 69, so Prabhupada was 72 years old, which, for young people back then, that was sort of like 812 years old, because he was 72 years old. And to see Prabhupada ecstatically dancing like that, I was actually stunned. And when Prabhupada started dancing, the devotees just went completely wild. And I remember there were just bodies flying all around me because all of Prabhupada's disciples back then they were young and sort of athletic. So I remember becoming disoriented. It's like in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna says to the universal form, Disho na jane, I can't make out the directions. So I didn't know if they were like flying or bouncing off the wall. It was just bodies flying all around me. And And I wasn't feeling very ecstatic, actually. I was just, but then in my heart, I knew the reason you are not ecstatic is because you don't deserve it. These people are actually practicing spiritual life. You are doing nothing. Why should you deserve the spiritual happiness? So I understood that. And then Prabhupada gave a talk, and if you would have asked me to repeat what Prabhupada said, it would have been difficult, but I just knew this person has spoken the truth. And so then I had an experience. Actually, Krishna came to me. Actually, I began having these ecstatic experiences in very, let us say, unspiritual situations because I was just a young man. And I would just suddenly begin chanting Hare Krishna ecstatically. And then the last day I was in Berkeley before, because the school year was over, I was going home to Los Angeles, Beverly Hills. So the last night I ran into a Harinam party. And so I knew enough, so I began chanting with them. And then Krishna just somehow or other, Krishna showed me that he had come into the universe in the form of his holy name to save the universe. And I actually I'd never really read a Hare Krishna book, but Krishna just revealed that to me, that he had come into the material world to save it by his name. And so I was chanting so ecstatically that when I then, decided, that's enough spiritual stuff. So I said goodbye to devotees. They all came and embraced me, actually. All the devotees embraced me because I was sort of chanting more ecstatically than they were. And so then I went home to LA and then I found the temple. I heard the first reading on this planet of Prabhupada's Krishna book. Prabhupada was, I didn't know, but just living in a rented house a few blocks away from me. And he was doing the Krishna book, first volume. So, and then they would make copy. They would type it out and give a copy to the temple. So they had the first reading ever on this planet of the first chapter of the Krishna book. And I was there in the back of the temple. The devotees never knew I was there. I sort of came in, sat in the back. No one knew I was there, and then I left. But I heard it, the birth of Lord Krishna. And then I began chanting, and when I read Prabhupada, I began to read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. That was it, game over. And actually, what convinced me, it's like when like you're buying a car, like then they have these car salesmen have these special lines to close the deal. So what closed the deal for me, and I read something in Prabhupada's Gita, and when I read that, I shouted out, Eureka. I mean, I just knew this is the absolute truth. And it was the Beta Veda, that we are qualitatively one with God, but quantitatively different. Because I'd been exposed to monism and I'd been exposed to dualism, and I just knew it's not enough. And so when I read Prabhupada's explanation, qualitatively one, quantitatively different, I just knew game over. Krishna wins. Well, I'll tell you one more little story. Actually, I don't tell this very much, but I guess I can tell you.
Yes, Maharaj. Our
Yeah,
good
so
fortune.
I was so I started to visit the temple and I knew at a certain point I realized, uh-oh, I think I have to be a devotee. Whoops. Well, there goes my social life. There goes everything. And so then I decided the summer was ending, so I was going back to Berkeley and I had to stay in school because in those days they had a draft, military draft. So if I didn't stay in the university, they would send me to Vietnam. So I had to stay in the university, but I thought I'll go back and, to the university, but I don't think I want to live in the temple. Or, I mean, I didn't want to like formally become, I was going to practice Krishna consciousness. I was going to read Prabhupada's books, but I wasn't the kind of person that likes to join things. I was more, like freedom loving person. So, so I was sleep. This was in Beverly Hills. I was sleeping one night, And then in the middle of the night, I just woke up. And I woke up, I was completely awake, not groggy, I was just completely awake. And then Krishna revealed to me it was this, like I said, I'm not like the big mystic of the Hare Krishna movement, but there was this jeweled crown like Krishna wears, and it was all these amazing jewels of different colors, and it wasn't material. And then I remember I looked at it. I just woke up in the middle of the night. I said, Krishna, and then it began to glow like this amazing effulgence. And so I just said, all right, I'll join your movement. And then I went back to sleep. So, so that was it. So then I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And when I joined, actually the day I joined, Krishna again revealed himself. I was, I was literally only been in the temple a few hours, and I was walking up the stairs, and then they had a little landing on the stairs, and there was a picture of Krishna. And I looked at the picture of Krishna, and it was just Krishna. It wasn't a picture, it was Krishna. And I remember I became so ecstatic that I was beside myself with ecstasy. So I actually ran into the street, and I was stopping cars in the street and telling them to chant Hare Krishna. I was just very ecstatic. So yeah, Krishna revealed everything to me. Then we had this poster of Prabhupada. It was the only Prabhupada poster then. It was black and white. Prabhupada sitting there very serious with books on both sides of him. And then I looked at the picture after a couple of days, and Krishna just told me this person is seeing me face to face. And so then I understood Prabhupada's position, and Krishna just and I mean, I was just I was preaching before I even knew the philosophy. I was just telling people you have to chant Hare Krishna. And then when I moved into the temple the first day, I hadn't even been there 24 hours, and I began organizing a guest reception program because I saw that people are coming to the temple, no one's talking to them. So I was actually organizing a guest reception program, and I'd only been in the temple like about 4 or 5 hours. So I think I was just born to do this. And then, of course, I have my notorious uh, deviation from everything sacred called Krishna West. And it's actually based strictly on Prabhupada's teachings. I've written essays in which I have pages and pages and pages of quotations from Prabhupada. Before I joined, the cult of Chaitanya, as Prabhupada said, before I joined the movement, in that summer, the summer of '69, I was on a famous street where the young people used to go in LA called Sunset Boulevard, Sunset Strip. And the devotees were doing Harinam, Vishnu Jana and Tamal Krishna and Gargwin, all these people. And so I knew the devotees from Berkeley, so I was chanting. And then I thought in my mind, should I go join the chorus line? They had all these devotees chanting. Should I go and chant with them, or should I stay here and chant? And then I thought, it was Krishna in my heart actually, that it's better I stay here because people need to see that normal people chant Hare Krishna. Because in order for people to really adopt something, whether it's something new, something different, there has to be some connection. Okay, these people are like me. I have empathy with these people, but they're chanting Hare Krishna. It's like in Hollywood. Everyone knows in Hollywood, because I'm, from LA, and everyone knows that when you make these big movies, you can spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising that won't decide whether the movie makes it or not. It's word of mouth. And so they made one movie called Prince of Persia, which people in America just weren't ready for Persia at that point. But they spent like $200 million on advertising, and the movie was just a bomb. It didn't. And so it's word of mouth. And which means like let's say a friend of yours sees a movie and they tell you, you have to see this movie. It's incredible. That's what makes things successful. But why? Because that's your friend. I mean, there's some empathy. You can relate to that person. You can identify with that person, and now they're telling you this is really great. There's actually one ISKCON guru, Mahatma Prabhu. He's from my neighborhood. He went to my high school, and he was a year younger than me. So when he was also a student in Berkeley, so I was preaching to him, and then now he's an ISKCON guru. So my point is, in order to preach successfully, people have to be able to identify with you, but you have something new. You have something amazing. If everything about you is strange and different, it doesn't work. And that's why the movement in the West is struggling, because people can't identify with our presentation. It can't be completely strange. So anyway, that's a whole other topic I've written many essays on. Shobha. That's a nice name.
Thank you,
Shobha.
Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I want to ask another question that when you joined Hare Krishna movement or take sannyas, what was your parents' reaction?
What was my what?
What was your parents' reaction?
I'm sorry, that last word was
Parents.
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 the what?
Parents.
Oh, parents. Oh, for
Yeah.
them it was like the end of the world. The devil got me, I guess. It's no, actually I was born we had no devil in our religion, but yeah, for them it was a catastrophe. So, but of course, family ties in the West. I mean, I had a very good family, a very good, loving family, um, but then actually, when I went back to the university, then they were happy. And when I went to Harvard, they didn't care what movement I joined. So, parents, they want to be proud of their children. And also, if I could do it again, I could have given my parents a soft landing. But we were just so young and revolutionary, and just so I was about as subtle as I don't know, as dynamite. So yeah, I mean that's one thing I really regret, because I definitely could have given my parents a much softer landing. But we were just young and revolutionary, and so it's kind of, yeah, I regret that. But so there's a few more.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Sagar. Oh yeah, my pleasure. Sagar Katrani.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanar Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, it's my desire, if possible, please do it. I want to darshan of your personal deity. It's my desire it's my desire. So if possible, please, Maharaj.
Oh, well, they're right behind me. Let's see. I have a little altar back here. Actually, Prabhupada, one time when I took sannyas, the next day we were walking with Prabhupada, and Satsarupa was also there. He had taken sannyas with me. And so, one second, the view now, it's a big picture of myself, which I can't stand. So, okay, now I can see everybody. So Satsarupa asked Prabhupada, should sannyasis travel with deities? And Prabhupada said no. He said Lord Chaitanya never traveled with deities. And that's why so many sannyasis travel with deities. Anyway, so that's so yeah, I have pictures. I like pictures of Krishna. I mean, you can see Krishna, he's right there. And so to me, the point is to see Krishna. So, Leela Priya Sham, that's a deluxe name.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
Maharaj,
Krishna.
actually, I wanted to hear something about your wife as well, because you mentioned that you were married, and actually, like, it was too early that you got like sannyas. So I wanted to know that, what was her reaction about this all? And was she
Oh,
okay with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, she was really a great soul. I mean, she's okay. I'll tell you the whole story. It was an arranged marriage. And because I was just a young guy, I didn't realize I was being arranged. Because, in those days, Prabhupada had sent me to Boston to work on his books, ISKCON Press. So we would go out every day, and do Harinam Sankirtan. And I was young and, I'd play the drum and lead the kirtans. And this girl started coming to the kirtans. I mean, she didn't just come for me. She was actually a devotee, and she was, I think she was only like 17 years old. As they say, I robbed the cradle. So anyway, she started coming and she was, fiery. She was a strong character in a good sense. And then back then, I didn't realize I was being set up for marriage because I was just like, Hare Krishna, this innocent young man. Still, I mean, many years away from a prefrontal cortex. So what happened is we were chanting in the Boston Common, sort of like the Central Plaza in Boston. And so just a few blocks from the Harinam, there was this Catholic girls' school. And they had asked if some devotees could go there and just explain, like, what in the world are you doing? So then one of the I wasn't an older devotee then. I'd only been in the movement then about, less than a year, about 8 or 9 months. So one of the older devotees came and said, okay, Hridayananda, we'd like you to seriously. When does a temple authority send a brahmachari and brahmacharini alone together to give a talk? Right? But I was just so, young and innocent. Jai. So it never occurred to me I'm being set up. So so then so when so then we went and I gave the talk and by Krishna's mercy, I had no desire to get married because I was really ecstatic. I mean, I was just thinking of Krishna all the time and just trying to find Krishna everywhere I looked. My whole life was just preaching and looking for Krishna everywhere. And I had no aversion. I mean, to me, women were just, they were just devotees. They just, looked a little different, but they were devotees. And so then I wanted to go help open a preaching center. So I was being sent to open up New Orleans. So Satsarupa was the temple president. We were, like brothers. So I went to say goodbye to Satsarupa and we offered obeisances. Then I literally had my hand on the doorknob. And he said, oh, there's one more thing. There's always one more thing. So then I went back and he said, we were thinking that maybe you could marry, this girl.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And I really had no real thoughts. I mean, I definitely was not feeling agitated, as we say in the Hare Krishna movement. And I just never thought about it. To me, the boys and girls are just devotees. Everyone's a devotee. And so, because in those days, we didn't have like this male chauvinism in ISKCON. We didn't, first of all, just one thing. I mean, I hate to be the one to tell you this. So, what the Romans used to say, don't kill the messenger. But actually, in Shastra, men don't call women Mataji.
That's a fact.
Yeah. I actually said I looked it up in the Vedas, I looked it up in the Bhagavad. So this whole thing, I mean, I don't think in order for me to treat a woman respectfully, you have to raise the danger of incest. So anyway, that's just me. I think it's a little eccentric. And what's interesting is that Prabhupada mentioned it a few times, but there's absolutely not one single documented case where Prabhupada actually called a woman Mataji.
It's the
If you
other way
look at
around.
what's that?
It's the other way around. Prabhupada calling them Prabhu.
Yeah, so it's kind of eccentric, I think. And actually it's anyway, I won't go into there's so many things I could say, but I'm trying to be nice. So anyway, there I am in Satsrupa's room, and I had no aversion to women. I mean, I wasn't agitated, and I wasn't, attracted, and I just thought, yeah, they're just we're all nice little spiritual family, and those are the girls. So, so I said, well, what do you think? Because in those days, I mean, I was just a brahmachari, and I really was fixed on if you just follow instructions, if you just do what you're told for Krishna, it doesn't matter whether the leaders know what they're doing or not. I'm going to be protected by Krishna. And all I really wanted to do was just think of Krishna. Like, for example, I was a Sankirtan leader and the temple commander. So one day we were driving back from Sankirtan in the van and we got a flat tire. So, and I was just reading books. And so Satsrupa said, you're the Sankirtan leader. You have to do something. So I said, does anyone here know how to fix a tire? Someone said, I said, okay, go fix a tire. So I just wanted to chant Hare Krishna. So anyway, Satsrupa told me, yeah, he said, I think it's a nice idea. So I thought, well, all right, because that's. So then I was sent away the next day because I was going to help open New Orleans Temple. So we first went to upstate New York and we were doing Sankirtan to collect money. And then I started to think, why am I getting married? Because I feel no desire for it. I have no aversion to women. I just see them as devotees. Everyone's just a devotee. And I was working, there was this couple who were supposed to be the temple president in New Orleans, and they had this marriage. They were always fighting, and it was just, and I thought, oh my God, I need that like I need a hole in my head. And so then I said, actually, I don't think I need to get married. That's so then apparently the word got back to Satsrupa and through his wife, it got anyway to the people who were managing this. So the next thing I knew, they got the special urgent phone call that I had to return to Boston right away. And so by that time we were in Detroit on our way to New Orleans. I was, flown back to Boston. And I think it was Krishna's arrangement. I think it was Krishna's arrangement because so then I thought, okay, well, I'll get married. So then the girl, Ananga Manjari, she was from a very, very Catholic family. And so her parent, and she was only 17. So her parents wouldn't give permission unless I went to see them. They had to make sure I wasn't, as a Hare Krishna, that was bad enough. I guess they had to make sure I wasn't completely crazy. And so then we went up north of Boston and we went to visit her parents. And it's just a brahmachari. So I actually had to I was sitting in the subway with an uncle. She wasn't initiated yet. And I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm sitting next to this girl in the subway. And so I was just, in my mind, I just visualized Prabhupada's lotus feet and put them on my head for protection. And so then we got to the house, and her house was like a Catholic ashram. I mean, all the pictures on the wall were Jesus and Mary, and it was like this little Catholic mandir. They were very, very Catholic. It was an Italian family, and it was actually pretty funny. So Ananga, she was Elaine then. She cooked lunch for us because obviously we weren't going to eat karmi food, and so she made lunch, and and then when she put it on the table, her mother was like this heavy Catholic. Her mother said to her, "Don't say any of your Hare Krishna prayers. Like don't poison the food with your Hare Krishna prayers." So then she was like, she was tough, Ananga. So then she just said, "Sharira Vidya Jaujate." And I was just sitting there like, I didn't want. So then we had to go to the family church and see the priest and get his blessings to get married. So we went to the Catholic church, and the priest was a nice guy, as young guys. He just told us, we believe this and that. And I said, well, that's nice. He said, yeah, all right, if you want to get married. And so that was that. And then we got married because it was the Hare Krishna movement. So you never pay for anything. Like you don't pay for a wedding. So we got married in the Salvation Army. We got married this we had to get legally married first. We got married in the a warehouse. We went to the Salvation Army in Boston. In this big warehouse, we had to like walk over boxes and everything. There was a space. And then I even had a ring, I think, because the house grihastas, they told me bring a ring. So then they married us. Do you accept this person? Do you accept this person? And then then he said, take the hand of the bride. And I almost fell over backwards, because I still had brahmachariitis. And so I thought, oh my God, I realized there was no escape. I realized, so I had to take the hand of the bride, and then I was married. And I always thought I was very fortunate because I had a really good wife. I mean, she's a really good devotee, and she was a great wife. She was really like devoted to the husband, and um, and I think Krishna gave me a really excellent wife, so that when I realized I wasn't meant for that ashram, that I wouldn't think that, oh, it's because I didn't have a nice wife. I mean, imagine if I would have had a wife who was like, I don't know, a real lemon. I mean, men and women, some men are good husbands and some men are just terrible husbands. And some women are good wives and some women are just like, terrible wives. So if I would have had a wife who was not just a really good wife, because Ananga, she was an excellent wife. She was preaching all the time. She was almost more devoted to me than I deserved. But so she was really a good wife. And so when I realized, whoops, wrong ashram. Because imagine if I would have had a wife that wasn't really a great wife for whatever reason, you know, not very much into Krishna consciousness, obnoxious, or just something. If I would have had a wife that wasn't really good, I imagine taking sannyas at 23, and I think it was almost inevitable that I would have thought, what if I would have had a good wife? Maybe I was so unhappy because it was just, didn't get a good wife. What if I had a good wife? So I think Krishna therefore gave me a really excellent wife so I could see it was just wrong ashram for me. So then and Ananga, I mean, she deserves extraordinary credit because I knew that Prabhupada won't give me sannyas if my wife doesn't agree. Because I had a friend named Janamejaya who was the temple president in Tallahassee, Florida. And he wanted to take sannyas, but his wife said no. And then Prabhupada wouldn't give him sannyas. So I thought, okay, you better prepare for this. So I realized that I had to persuade my wife that this is the right thing. And so we took several days off and we just talked. I mean, really heart to heart, like as souls, as devotees, no diplomacy, no, it was just, we just really opened our hearts to each other. And I told her, that because I just knew I meant to travel around the world and preach. And she was, really good devotee, and she agreed. So then we went into Prabhupada's room. And me, my mother always said I'd be a good lawyer, so I had to have an argument to give Prabhupada. I mean, not to argue with Prabhupada, but to make my case. So when I went to see Prabhupada with my wife, and I brought my wife because I knew that she had to agree also. This was in Los Angeles in May 1972. So I made a proposal to Prabhupada, I said that Prabhupada marriage, Vivaha Yagya, is one of the Vedic sacrifices. And like all Vedic sacrifices, the purpose is to help one advance in Krishna consciousness. And so I said, I think I've gotten the benefit out of this yajna. And now I just want to preach. So then then Prabhupada said to my wife, so what do you think? We have different versions. She remembers a little differently what Prabhupada said, but it's, sort of the same. I mean, she's probably right, but what I remember is that she said to Prabhupada, I just want to be Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada said, you are already Krishna conscious. And then Prabhupada stood up and he came and he actually slapped me on the back. And he said to his secretary, put his name on the list. I mean, we were so innocent back then. I mean, because my wife, by then, maybe she was 18, I was 23. And so I wanted to take care of her. So I gave her $8 for a bus ticket to San Diego because, I mean, we were back then, we couldn't imagine living outside a temple. It was unimaginable. It was just unimaginable. If you're a devotee, you live in a temple. And so I told her, she'd go anywhere in the world she wanted to go, and she wanted to go to San Diego. So the unfortunate thing, it actually cost more than $8. I got the wrong information. So I just taken sannyas. She was 18. She had at the bus station, she had to start collecting money from people just to get her ticket. Those were very different times. I mean, I obviously would do things differently now, what I now know. So, and Krishna rewarded me. I mean, every time I accepted a higher responsibility, I felt like my brain was expanding. And so when I took sannyas, actually, I could see things I couldn't see before in terms of how to preach, how to make a whole country Krishna conscious. And it just, so that's how I took sannyas. And yeah, my wife, she was a great wife, and she was, she's been a good friend to me. So did that answer Leela Priya Shama? You got a deluxe
Thank
name.
you so much, Maharaj. I'm so much impressed and so much inspired with your story, your life story, like from a non-devotee to a devotee, then brahmachari, then in a grahastha ashram for some time, and then sannyas ashram. So, I mean, it's amazing. I would really love to write your biography with me in a book. Thank you so much, Maharaj. It was an amazing, amazing session for me. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, well, maybe we'll end here.
I think Maharaj, the devotees are not able to get enough of you. But
Oh,
anyway, like all good things must come to an end. I understand, Maharaj. But yeah, so far I have never in like past 4 months and never saw a session so interactive. Devotees coming questions after questions after questions.
well, my pleasure. It's for me, it's really it's something special because I'm kind of like stuck in the West. And so to see all of you, and in Pakistan, and I really admire devotees who are in Pakistan because of the unusual situation you're in. And so I think I think you're all really heroic devotees of Krishna. So I was happy to do this. So thank you
That-
very much. I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll meet again someday.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, just a parting question, like
Yeah.
only like devotees as senior as you would know. It's like question from my side. Two small questions. Once when Prabhupada would write a letter, and if he's dictating the letter, so far I understand, if he's dictating the letter would also carry the name of the secretary. It's something like that, like SDA. What would that?
Yeah, Sachin Patasari, right?
Yeah, that means like SDA, like he is the one who is
Yeah,
given the letter
that's
dictated by Prabhupada, right?
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
okay, fine, that's one thing.
Back in ancient times when people used to use paper and typewriters, that was a common thing. That was a sort of a common thing that if you had a secretary, the secretary's initials would.
Initials will be there. Yeah, because like the Veda-based carries that thing, so that I was just wanted to.
Yeah.
And just another.
Go ahead.
Please, Maharaj. I'm sorry.
I say Prabhupada never wasted time. So he'd have the letters read to him during his massage. He liked to get a massage every day in the sun. He liked to be in the sun. And So then the secretary, so many times I was with Prabhupada, and he'd hear the letters he'd give.
Response. Okay, another thing, Maharaj, this is again also has a historical context. I couldn't get like a definitive answer which is satisfactory. Uh, there is a conception like in ISKCON, like of course now it has come to the fore. But I was doing a research on Gayatri, I think around 5 or 6 years ago, and we came up with a Gayatri course also, which we like facilitate in Mayapur as part of the DT worship ministry. So there's a history to this Gayatri where there is a I would say it is possibly their perspective is like that Prabhupada gave the first Gayatri initiations in Boston in 68. At least that's what like we read in Sasaru Maharaj.
Right.
But I have a question that I didn't find an answer because the person who could answer me is not in this planet anymore. Kirtanand Swami Maharaj got his sannyas initiation in 1967 at Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. So if that is the case, that being the case, so I would presume that Kirtanand Maharaj got a second initiation. He must have got a Gayatri thread, right? So if
I don't know.
can I
If the Lilamrita says that the first Gayatri Diksha was 68, and we know Kirtananda took sannyas 67, boy, was that a disaster. So then yeah. I think if you study Prabhupada's life in ISKCON, after forming ISKCON, he's kind of learning on the job because no one has ever done this. He's doing something that's never done before. There's no manual, there's no rule book. He's just, how do you preach to these people? And, how do you do the Diksha? And like for example, if you look at traditional Shastra, it's not a two-stage Diksha. Diksha just means Gayatri. And so, yeah, starting with Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and then of course Bhakti Siddhanta and Prabhupada, you find these brilliant Nitya Siddha devotees, not only pure devotees, but also really smart. And what they're doing is they're translating an ancient tradition into the modern industrial world. And if you know history, with the Industrial Revolution and all these things and modernization, even sociologically, the world became very, very different. For example, just to give one obvious example, did you ever notice that in the Bhagavatam, there's no such thing as a religious institution?
No, hasn't.
No, there are no religious institutions in the Bhagavatam. There are no religious movements.
Yeah.
It's a very different sociology. There definitely are Vaishnavas and Shaivas or Shaktas or Asuras. But so when Bhakti and if scholars, what scholars have pointed out, outside scholars, very good ones, is that if you study Lord Chaitanya's movement, one of the striking features of it in the first few centuries after Lord Chaitanya is the extraordinary lack of institutionalization.
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah,
for the movement.
Yeah, because you have all these Nitya Siddha devotees, they don't need to be managed. But what happens is, in a sense, one could argue, just as a historian, that you have all these super Vaishnavas coming down from the spiritual world. Lord Chaitanya brings his army down with him, and they begin this powerful movement, which really transformed India, even according to mundane scholars, especially sort of getting beyond caste consciousness and everything. But then what happens, I believe, as a historian, that at a certain point, when you start to get into maybe the 1700s, let's say, and there's not so much evidence of a strong movement. There are great souls. There's Vishwanath Chakravarti, there's Baladev. There are great devotees, but you don't hear so much about movements. And
Scattered.
so I think at that point, the lack of institutionalization, because you're also coming into the modern world. I mean, the British are coming to India. The British are in India, and the modern world is starting to come to India. The world is changing dramatically, and a non-institutionalized Gaudiya Vaishnava movement is just becoming sort of
Irrelevant.
yeah, it's sort of coming apart, and there's nothing. So then when Bhakti Vinod Thakur, his great contribution is he actually brought Lord Chaitanya's movement into the modern world. And part of that meant creating an institution, printing books. Because before that, you get great Vaishnavas, like they'd always done, just sort of maybe sitting in Radha Kund somewhere and just chanting. They didn't. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought it into the modern world. Bhakti Siddhanta brought it even farther. But what's interesting is that Bhakti Vinod and Bhakti Siddhanta, especially, because they were on the boundary between non-institution and institution, they're very much aware that an institution is a mixed blessing. And they actually wrote essays. Bhakti Siddhanta even said a religious institution is a necessary evil.
Yes.
And so the word, but it's necessary. You have to have it. There must be a religious institution. And so I think that in order to really understand how to spread this movement, you have to not only be a faithful devotee and chant your rounds, you have to know something about sociology, and you have to know something about history. And I think what's needed now is to continue the process. That's why I started Krishna West, because ISKCON, it's like whether you are a religious institution or, let's say, or a four-legged mammal, if you can adapt to your environment, you're going to go extinct. That we don't have woolly mammoths anymore, saber-toothed tigers, and we hardly have a Western Hare Krishna movement. And so what's interesting is that, let's say in the Western world, where there's so many, especially in the first world, we have so many devotees from an Indian background, Hindu background, and they tend to be very successful, and they're very good devotees. And so they know that what I'm saying is true, because the reason that the diaspora in America, the Hindu community, is the most successful immigrant community in North America. And the reason for that is, number one, they're very intelligent and they've adapted. And so when I tell them that ISKCON has to adapt, not changing basic principles, but details, superficial things, they agree, because that's what they did. That's why they have the big houses. That's why they have the nice cars. That's why their children go to the good universities, because they did that. So that's the great challenge. If you take this process, beginning with Bhakti Vinod to Bhakti Siddhanta to Prabhupada, the world has changed dramatically. Even the world that Prabhupada preached to, it's unrecognizable now.
Gone.
And so to me, we need devotees to be spiritual scientists, not just sentimental, not just sort of blind. Blind following is very good if you're a Shudra. But if you're not a Shudra, that's not your duty. I mean, the point is we do follow. However, I am trying to be an adult spiritual son of Prabhupada, and try to figure out, how do you keep the family business going? Because the family business in the West is not making a lot of money. And the reason is because ISKCON still in the West markets itself to a world that hasn't existed for 40 years. In other words, there aren't any hippies, or if there are, they're just like sort of like crazy people, and so the world today, and again, everything we're doing in Krishna West, I have dozens of quotes from Prabhupada. I've written essays. You can go to hdgoswami.com,
Yes.
mention my name, and you'll get a discount. That was a joke. So anyway, I've written all these essays about Prabhupada epistemology. Just to give one example, Prabhupada, take one English word, opinion. So you have all these quotes from Prabhupada, where Prabhupada, someone will say in a class, they'll ask a question. So, in your opinion, no, it is not my opinion. It is not the question of opinion. It is the fact. I never gave my opinion. When did I ever give my opinion? But there's another set of quotations from Prabhupada where he says, well, actually, my opinion is, or that's just my opinion. And so this is a paradox. So the answer is very simple. Every time that Prabhupada says, I never gave my opinion, it is not a question of opinion, he's quoting Shastra. And every time that Prabhupada says, that's just my opinion, he's not quoting Shastra. So the idea, which is, I mean, just if you want to know why the Western Hare Krishna movement is just limping along, it's because confusing details with basic principles like ethnic dress, ethnic food, ethnic music, and also so because if you can't distinguish between fundamental principles, as Rupa Goswami says in chapter 6 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, if you can't distinguish between the principles and the details, you're not a spiritual scientist. And if you're and the only thing the Western world is going to accept from us is spiritual science. So, in other words, Krishna consciousness is spiritual science. It's not an ethnicity. So you have all this mythology in ISKCON, like you have to call women Mataji, or Adoti is, spiritual, or women should cover their head, which they don't do, by the way, in Vedic culture. And so what I'm trying to do is take this sort of de-ethnicize Krishna consciousness and present it as a spiritual science, not as an ethnicity.
Indian culture in raps.
And the funny thing is, what they call what's probably most devotees is going to call Vedic culture. I mean, who knew? Half of it comes from Turkey. In terms of the food, in terms of I mean, it comes from. I mean, nothing against Muslims, but that's where it's coming from. I actually did the research. That's what you learn in graduate school, especially, is how to do research. And so I've made these, you can see these videos I've made because one ISKCON sannyasi actually thought that, made a video saying that I was brainwashed and, God, what if it's true? Anyway, that I was brainwashed and all these things. And so what I did is, for example, in Indian, say, Gaudiya Vaishnav temple architecture, Gaudiya Vaishnav temple architecture in Vrindavan and other places, there's a lot of Muslim influence.
Yeah, there is.
Because that was the culture. In food, in architecture, in music, there's a lot of Muslim influence. And so you have all these devotees. Yeah, they're nice people. They're nice devotees, they're innocent, telling the world, this is eternal Vedic culture. This is how people dress in the spiritual world. This is what the buildings look like in Krishna Loka. This is what the music sounds like. And it's actually a mixture of Hindu and Muslim ethnicity, which is I find remarkable. I mean, I have to apologize because I'm treating you like adults and just telling you the truth. But so therefore, what I see the next great Hare Krishna explosion, as opposed to implosion in the West, is that we have to present the Western world a spiritual science. The Western world does not want to become ethnically South Asian. They just don't want to do it. I mean, saris don't even have pockets. So anyway, so it's so that's what the world will accept from us, a spiritual science. let's say, God forbid, let's say someone you know or you have some kind of illness, and there's a medicine that will actually cure you. No one cares where the medicine comes from. It's just like when they had that COVID and India became sort of the pharmacy to the world, sending all these vaccines around. No one cares where it comes from. So if we present a spiritual science, that's what the world will accept. And not just all this. I mean, there's so many things I could tell you, philosophical mistakes also. I'll just go very briefly, and then I'll prove to you I really am brainwashed. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the last verse of chapter 17. I feel like Narada preaching to the Prachetas. Anyway, the last verse of chapter 17, Krishna says, Ashadhaya hutam dattam tapas taptam kritam chajat asarit uchate partha nacha tat neha noiha. I might have got one syllable wrong. Anyway, Krishna says that any religious activity or spiritual activity you perform, whether it's yajna or tapas or dan, if you don't really believe in what you're doing, it has no effect. It's useless. And Prabhupada translates the word asat, useless. And Krishna says it's useless in this life and in the next life. So what does that mean for a Gata Sukriti? Like, okay, get people to eat prasadam, get people to buy a book, get them to just hear Hare Krishna. What about Krishna saying that if you don't really believe in it, it's useless? So how does that work? So I'm not rejecting.
Not an easily answered question.
What's that?
Not an easily answered question.
Actually, Krishna gave me the answer. And by the way, to make the perfect storm of a shrinking Western Hare Krishna movement, we also have another philosophical imprecision, which is the idea of a Gyata Sukriti. Have you heard that? No, not a gift. It's causeless mercy. I mean, causeless mercy is like the motto of ISKCON, causeless mercy. The problem is the idea of causeless mercy, like devotees, they're like this competition, this humility competition. Well, I didn't deserve to be a devotee. I deserve to be born, I don't know, as a worm in a quadriplegic insect or something. So, but what causeless mercy actually means in Shastra, and what Prabhupada actually meant is the person giving you the mercy has no selfish motive.
Yes.
So because the word for causeless in Sanskrit is ahaituka or ahaituki bhakti, which comes from the word hetu, which means a motive, a mental cause, a motive. So ahaituki bhakti means bhakti in which you don't have selfish motives. So it's the giver of bhakti that has no selfish motive. Because if it were true that, yes, all these undeserving people are getting mercy, that would mean that many verses in Bhagavad Gita are false. Like, for example, the verse where Krishna says, Samohang sarva bhuteshu, I'm equal to everyone. The verse where Krishna says, Pandita samadarshana, the wise are equal to everyone. The verse where Krishna says, Samak sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakting labate param, you achieve the highest bhakti when you are equal to everyone.
All the equal verses are out of the
Yeah, so therefore, it's not the fact that two people are walking down the street, one of them just happens to turn right, one of them happens to turn left. The person that turned right walks into a Harinam party and goes to Vaikuntha, and the person that turned left, no Harinam party, goes to hell. How could two people who have the same, who are equally deserving or equally undeserving, how could one go to heaven and one go to hell? That would be a ridiculous, unqualified God.
Chance theory.
What? It's not, it's
That's
just, it's
great.
completely contradicts the Bhagavad Gita. So what did Prabhupada mean when he said if they just hear the Harinam or I'll tell you what it means. The answer to the question is found in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked Krishna, Ayatisha Dayopeto, etc. What happens to a good devotee who's really trying, but he or she doesn't make it?
Yes.
They don't make it. They fall down from the process. And then Krishna says they go up to the higher planets and they have, they get this unlimited credit card in Swargaloka and all that. And then they come back to the world. And then Krishna says when they come back to the world, they are reminded of their previous devotion.
Janam Shimatam Gehi.
No, that's the other one. I'll read you the verse. Here, I'll read you right now. And I'll quote Krishna, exactly what Krishna said. Let's see. That would be okay. Krishna says they take a nice birth because they were devotees in the past life. And then tatratang buddhi sang yogam labate porvadehikam. The person then revives their buddhi sanyogam, their strong connection with spiritual understanding. Why? Because it's purvadehikam. It's from their past body. The word purva, we still have it in English from Sanskrit in the word previous. Purva is just previous. It's the same word from Sanskrit. So when you let's say meet a devotee and you hear about Krishna, you think this makes sense. That is Purva Dehika Gyan. It's not causeless mercy. And Prabhupada said that. I gave a talk on this to the North American RGB. Prabhupada said all of my disciples were devotees in their past life. And Krishna sent them to get the Sankirtan movement going. And then Krishna makes, then the next verse I want to read you because Krishna is even more emphatic. That's 643, Bhagavad Gita 643. And so again, the person tries to practice Krishna consciousness because of their knowledge from a past life. And then Krishna says, Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate yavashopisa. The person is, this is 644. The person is involuntarily sort of drawn into Krishna consciousness. It's like, I can't believe I'm joining the Hare Krishna movement. So, and Krishna says that it is purvabhya sena tenaiva. It is by their previous practice and by that alone. By that alone. So, I mean, what is there about this that, someone's not getting? So the agyata sukriti means that you don't remember that you were a devotee in the past. And that's why if you just touch a book or get a book, or if you just take prasadam, it revives. Why? Because you were already a devotee. And people who were not already devotees, they're not just sort of swept off their feet into the Hare Krishna movement. You got to really work hard to get all the nonsense out of their head. They're labor intensive, the ones who weren't devotees in the last. So then Krishna says, Purvabhyasena taitenaiva, and then Jigyasurapi Jogyasi. Again, they want to learn about Krishna consciousness. So that's what it is. So agyata, that causeless mercy, agyata sukriti, it just means that from past life. Or in this life, you can begin in this life. Rupa Goswami says Adho Shraddha. Anyway, the reason I'm taking the time to talk to all of you, because, I think you're important, you're devotees, and we desperately need a rational Hare Krishna movement. I mean, okay, since I might as well get myself kicked out of ISKCON once and for all. So the point is that, you know what they say in law enforcement? They say, follow the money trail and you'll find the rat. So the point is that, at least in the West, I don't know about India, I certainly don't know about Pakistan. In India, in the West, I mean, for every devotee philosopher, we have probably at least 100 astrologers. And that's despite the fact that Prabhupada actually said in my presence, I was sitting right next to him, he didn't want a lot of astrology in ISKCON. People care. It's just, and so how much money is spent on temples? Tens of millions of dollars on big temples. How much money on schools? Where is the Gaudiya Vaishnav University? Where's the Gaudiya Vaishnav Seminary? Where are the world-class schools in the Western world? I'll tell you something. In the Western world, intelligent people will respect 100 times more a great school than just a big temple. People aren't interested. They don't, they're not interested in big Hindu temples. They're interested, they not, and so therefore, Prabhupada came to the West, or he just started ISKCON, to put a head on a headless society. Prabhupada said that the Pancharatrik Vidi, Bhagavad Vidi, the ritual worship and the teaching, but he said they're both needed, but the knowledge is more important. So why would ISKCON spend 100 times or 1,000 times more on rituals than it does on education? And I'm saying that as a member of ISKCON. I'm a faithful servant of Prabhupada. I'm a member of ISKCON, but I think a movement which is mature, which is not cultish, is capable of self-criticism. In fact, that's why totalitarian governments always end up doing crazy, evil things, because a society which is not capable of self-criticism is going to do stupid things. So, and Krishna, last thing I'll tell you, and then you can all, give me all your rupees. In the Bhagavad Gita, everyone in ISKCON knows the famous verse, right? Tadvidhi pranipatena. It's like the national anthem of ISKCON. Try to learn the truth by approaching a guru. And so what's interesting, as I always say, that verse begins with the Sanskrit word tat, tadvidhi. Tat means that. So if I say to you that you should understand, obviously you're going to say to me, well, what is that? So what is that? And if you want to know what that is, look at the previous verse, 433. And that turns out to be Shreyan Dravyamaya Yagya Jnana Yag. That much better than worshiping me with rituals is worshiping me with knowledge. That's what you learn from a guru. That rather than just performing, the rituals are nice, and there's a whole sociology of rituals which shows that it's actually a good thing for society. However, more important, Shreyan, much better than that, is service to Krishna by knowledge, learning, teaching. And so ISKCON, if it's going to succeed in the world, especially outside of India, absolutely needs to be first and foremost an educational movement. And obviously we build temples, we worship deities. Of course we do that. But it has to be especially an educational movement that is restoring a legitimate Brahmin class to the society, because people are not going to accept us just because we're really good pujaris. It's great to have really good pujaris. They're a wonderful thing to have. But if the world's going to accept us, it's because we are the teachers. We are the best teachers in the world. We can tell people and societies how to have a wonderful life, how to live in peace, how to stop war, how to have general prosperity. We are supposed to be the teachers of the world. And that means that ISKCON should be spending a lot of money on education, not just bigger and bigger and better rituals.
I don't see that happening in near future, Maharaj.
What's that?
I don't see that happening in near future.
Well, you
I don't
got
see
to
that.
try. Prabhupada died. I'm just going to keep trying. You're intelligent people. You're sincere, intelligent people, and I'm just telling you the truth. So yeah, if Krishna blesses us, he'll empower us. So that's what we, so I encourage all of you to surrender to Krishna, to love Krishna, to follow Prabhupada and his movement, and do the best you can to put this movement on a rational educational footing. Otherwise, you get all kinds of, sorry, and I promise, but you get all these little, like these things, which for me are just like, I don't know whether I should laugh or cry. Like people chanting Gayatri mantra and they're covering their hand. Have you seen that? And there's all these pictures of Prabhupada chanting Gayatri,
Without.
exposing. Yeah, it's like there are these evil spirits that kind of can, they'll bounce off a left hand, but they can penetrate a right hand, or that you can't, Yeah, I mean, it's just, anyway. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you're lucky. Anyway, thank you very much.
But the very last thing this devotee has,
Yes.
very small, swift question. Seemal, go ahead. Where is she?
Seemal Sindhu?
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaji. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaji, I have to ask that how did you start writing books and what motivates you to write?
Oh, thank you. When I joined the movement, I was just at a certain point, after I'd been in the movement a few years, especially I'd say by 1977, especially, and even earlier, 76, I was kind of intellectually starving. Because I read Prabhupada's books as soon as they came out. I'd read Prabhupada's books, immediately. And Prabhupada had ordered me to get an education, not just to read it, to get an education so that I could present Krishna to educated people. So when I applied to Harvard, you have to write a little essay like, why do you want to go to Harvard? So in my essay, I put something they really liked. I said, I felt that because I'm in this somewhat closed spiritual society, I said I feel that I'm afraid that I'm becoming intellectually incestuous. It's like, because ISKCON is also in its own way an echo chamber. I mean, we do have the philosophy, and the philosophy is true, and everything Prabhupada said is true. But there's all kinds of mistakes people make. And so I felt I'm trying to save a world that I don't even understand. And so I wanted to go back. And when I went back to college, first I went to UCLA to finish my bachelor degree. And I don't know, it was ecstatic because I was just like feeding my brain. And it was empowering. When I would sit at classes in Harvard and I'd listen to a teacher kind of, making fun of Vedic culture, Indian culture, I just thought, I'm going to laugh last. I get the last laugh because I felt empowered because now I know what their arguments are. I see how weak they are. And it's not that all my teachers were reverent. I mean, I had really good teachers, but sometimes there'd be something. And, in general, they were very nice, good teachers. And I realized that, Prabhupada used to quote this thing, Balang Jasya, Budhir Jasya Balang Tasya. Whoever, Budhir Jasya, whoever has buddhi, intelligence, Balang Tasya, he has power. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And so I went to the university and it was, I felt like I'd died and gone to heaven when I went back to the university because I was getting empowered more and more and more to present Krishna consciousness. And also, frankly, when I got out of the echo chamber and I looked at ISKCON and I sort of regained my objectivity. I could see the Hare Krishna presentation the way the world sees it. And I thought, oh my God, we have a problem. And of course, I'm talking about North America now. I'm not speaking about other places. And I saw that, I mean, obviously, our philosophy, our practice, everything Prabhupada presented is perfect. It's perfect spiritual life. But the imperfection was devotees weren't thinking. I mean, you have leaders who, I mean, I felt like the last original thought they ever had was to join the Hare Krishna movement.
I agree.
And so, I mean, they're sincere. I don't mean to insult or criticize. I mean, the leaders, they're very good souls. They're very sincere. They're really trying to serve Krishna. But I feel we really need to be intelligent. We need to understand the world that we're trying to save. Devotees need to be philosophers. Devotees need to write books, novels, just, for example, where's the cultural production? When Prabhupada was here, we had original ISKCON art. Now, what is there? ISKCON in general doesn't produce art. It doesn't produce literature. I mean, maybe just rehashing the same old philosophy. But in terms of writing books, producing music that really captures the world, where's the cultural production? Where are the public intellectuals? Where are the highly educated devotees speaking to public issues? So, anyway, so that's my Western perspective. And of course, I don't live in Pakistan unless I really do, but I've just been hypnotized and I don't know I'm there. But anyway, as far as I know, I don't live in Pakistan. And so, I mean, you're in a special situation. So you're intelligent. You figure it out in your country or in India. And even in India, I've heard from many educated Indians that there's a whole section of the Indian population that we're not reaching as much. Sort of like really educated professional young people. I mean, obviously we reach a lot of them, but we could reach a lot more of them. So to me, yeah, go ahead.
It's the same thing, Maharaj, what Prabhupada pointed out. As I see in India, it's all about the mass, not the class. Because in order to be heard to the class, you need to have some class in you. So then you cannot
should
sell
be the educators. We should have where are the ISKCON universities? Where are the ISKCON? Where is ISKCON's original cultural production? Producing great music, great art, great everything. I mean, there's something, but it's like if you've been to a Sunday feast play, it's like it's nice. I mean, it's nice and they're sincere. But we should, and Prabhupada even said cultural conquest. So again, I am a loyal, lifelong member of ISKCON. And I will, till the day I leave this world, I'm going to be a faithful servant of Prabhupada and his mission. But I think that, a society must be capable of self-criticism. It's ironically because some people think, oh, it's a cult. The easiest way to show people this is not a cult, show them you're capable of self-criticism. Cults don't criticize themselves. So I think we need a healthy amount of self-criticism. In a positive spirit. So anyway, thank you all very much. I appreciate your patience, and it was really fun for me. I mean, just to meet all you, because it's fascinating for me to meet devotees from a different part of the world like this. When I was a kid, I had a stamp collection. I was interested in other cultures. So thank you all very much.
Prabhuji, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. So sorry, I just had a confusion about something that we discussed.
Yes.
So we had discussed how it's important that devotees have the literature, the writer, there should be more new books and the artist should perform. But just today, I walked into Matchless Gift and I saw 5-6 rows of books of all the other authors than Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, it seemed to me like Prabhupada books were just sidelined. So
Okay.
when we have too many authors writing
Okay.
books, so
Okay.
how do
That's
I
a
mean I
fair, yeah.
didn't get the connection.
No, but that's a fair point. Prabhupada's books obviously have to be central. But I would say that, with all due respect, and I mean that sincerely, uh, everyone's writing a book now, but are they books that really reach the Western world or just modern Indians even?
Hmm.
And so, it's nice to write a book. Everyone should write books, but how many of those books are really breaking through into mainstream culture?
Exactly.
And not just by and there's if you just write a very orthodox book, like this is just straight Krishna consciousness, but this is my take on it, this is my realization, that's nice, but it doesn't really change the world. And if we write a book which is too compromised, like, okay, in order to reach modern people, I won't mention Krishna, that's another useless.
Stream.
Yeah, the real you should get my books. I mean, if you want, I can even send you the books. It's my I set myself a challenge when I was writing books, and that is the books have to work, you could say, artistically as literature. I'm not going to sacrifice the literary quality. Oh, and Marisha there. Marisha, why don't you wave and stand up and break something in your room so people can see it? Yes. So, yeah, she just also published a novel. So I set myself this challenge. I'm not going to sacrifice the literary quality in order to make it Krishna conscious. But I'm not going to sacrifice the Krishna consciousness either. Because, you can write a million books which are Krishna conscious and just not going to change anything in the world. It's just another Hare Krishna book. Or you can write a book, psychology or this or that, and maybe it's a little interesting to people, but there's not much Krishna consciousness in it. To write a book that's Krishna conscious and it works as literature. It works as literature. That's the challenge.
You need more work to do, really.
Yeah.
The same we see also with the music, Maharaj. Like a lot of them get carried away with the trendy musics, but then it's not making much difference. Like George Harrison actually could, his
Yes.
music could actually impact a lot of them that time. But
Yeah. I
we
think,
don't
yeah.
see
And
that now.
devotees,
People
I
are
mean,
just getting carried away.
yeah. I think the real challenge is to create art, whether it's music or literature or painting, to create art which really has an impact in society. That's very difficult. It takes years. You have to study, you have to practice, you have to, devotees just, learn a few licks on the mridanga. I mean, it's interesting. One time when I was teaching at the University of Florida, I was giving classes there in history of India, history in religion of India. And I was walking, my class ended, and I was walking across the campus, and I came to that famous plaza in Gainesville where they give out all the prasadam. And so they were having a kirtan fest in Alachua, which is just, down the road from Gainesville. And they had all the most famous kirtaniyas in the world. I won't mention names, but these are like the superstars, marquee kirtan leaders. And they had this big rug, and they were sitting in the main plaza. It was lunch. All the hundreds and thousands of students were walking because it was time for the break, and they made like four or five of them. And what I found amazing, not one person stopped, not one. All the teachers and professors are walking there, and I thought, wow, this is a great moment for anthropology. Because I always have like my inner anthropologist is always going. So I thought, okay, I'm going to stay there and see. I'm just going to see what happens. And I stayed there at 10 or 15 minutes. Not one fruitive worker or mental speculator stopped. And so it's this ISKCON self-contained thing. Like we're just like self-satisfied in the wrong sense of the word. It's not that important to us. to save other people because, we have enough money, we have enough food, and we have a good life. So, it's like let them eat cake prasadam. You know, so that's the real challenge. If you are a religious movement or if you are a large mammal, prehistoric mammal, you will go extinct if you don't adapt to the environment. India, I mean, frankly, among the Hindu community, it's not really dangerous because they're just naturally attracted. But the world doesn't really care that much. And I'm not saying this is right. It's not a good thing. It's just a fact. The world doesn't care that much that many Hindus chant Hare Krishna. They should care. I mean, I think it's significant, but they don't. And so, if we want to reach the world, we're not going to re-ethnicize them. We're not going to give them a new ethnicity. We're not going to suddenly make them. No, you don't want to listen to the Beatles or or what's her name? Who's that singer that I always forget her name? Swift. Yeah, I think Rapid Swift. Yeah, Taylor Swift. So
Taylor
yeah,
Swift.
I always forget her name somehow. Anyway, they're not going to stop listening to these people because you're out on the street with your little cartels or because you made a bhajan CD or something in Bengali that no one in this part of the world understands. They have no idea what the song's about. Or, they have all these clinics in ISKCON, learn to play the mridanga, learn to play the harmonium. When are we going to actually produce really great music in the musical language of the people we're trying to persuade? But when you buy into this illusion that this is all coming from the spiritual world, I mean, Krishna is definitely coming from the spiritual world. Prabhupada's coming from the spiritual world. Bhagavad Gita is coming from the spiritual world. ISKCON, you could say, is coming from this, but not your little harmonium. And so we have to speak the cultural language of the people. Prabhupada didn't come to America and try to sell books in Bengali or Sanskrit. He spoke English. So there are cultural languages, and we have to speak the cultural language of the people we're trying to save. And so to me, there's something it's like, it's like Nero, the Roman emperor, that crazy guy. He said, he fiddled while Rome was burning. I feel like so many devotees are just tuning their harmoniums while the world is burning. And so that's what's really, as you can see, I came from Berkeley. I was, I have my little revolutionary madness inside of me. But that's the next Hare Krishna explosion. The next Hare Krishna explosion is an ISKCON, at least part of it, that takes the world seriously. We don't take the world that seriously, and they reciprocate. They don't take us that seriously. It's all, there's some justice in that, isn't there? When we really start caring about the world and giving them the spiritual science that Prabhupada gave in a cultural language which they understand, then you'll see a Hare Krishna movement that's, really going somewhere. So if any of you can, please get a visa for America and come and help us. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. It was really a pleasure.
Hare Krishna,
Yes, Krishna Priya is coming tomorrow to America. Maybe she can come and assist.
Who's coming to America?
Our host, Krishna Priya is speaking after tomorrow. Maybe she's.
Oh, well, if you're coming,
have
please.
Coming
where? Where are you coming to?
I don't know, to ask her. I don't know where she's maybe packing her bags. So, but yes, Maharaj, the devotees, they will be very fortunate. We will all be fortunate if we can have your darshan. And your darshan again, Maharaj, to Pakistan and maybe in this forum. Please, Maharaj, thank you so very much. All glories
thank you all. I had a lot of fun. I hope you weren't too bored. So yeah, thank you all very much. And I hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you, Maharaj. His Holiness Hridayananda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. All glories to Him.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
मानना पड़ेगा आप लोगों को, 3 घंटे आप लोगों ने मतलब सुना, मानना पड़ेगा। आप लोगों को स्टेमिना की ये दाद देनी पड़ेगी।
सुना
थैंक यू, हरे कृष्णा।
हरे
कल
कृष्ण।
उर्मिला माँ जी, क्या कल उर्मिला माँ जी है? आई डोंट
हरे
थिंक इतने
कृष्ण महाराज।
महाराज बहुत पहले चले गए। सो आई एम जस्ट सेइंग मे बी कल उर्मिला माता जी हैं, शायद इतना लंबा नहीं जाएगा। शी इज लाइक वेरी कटोर इवन। अगर आज आप ये देखो ये वाला, ये प्रेजेंटेशन महाराज का 40-45 मिनट में खत्म हो गया, तो उसमें सिर्फ क्वेश्चन आंसर चले हैं। मेरे घड़ी के हिसाब से 8:50 हुए, मेरे घड़ी के हिसाब से हाँ, मेरे घड़ी के हिसाब से 8:50 हुए थे, यानी कि 50 मिनट्स। एंड फिर बाद में या थैंक यू, हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.
जय